Welcome to the Hair Metal Chaos Live with the Guru and Rachelle. My name is Anthony, but they call me the Guru, and Stevie is hiding in the background playing. I don't fuck up the intro. But anyway, last week was amazing. We talked Motley Crue with special guest Wednesday 13 from the Murder Dolls and had almost 480 people watching the show at one time. So we really appreciate the support. Now, tonight we're going to be talking Bon Jovi, and there's no better special guest to have than legendary rock photographer Mark Weiss, who stumbled upon an unknown John Bon Jovi singing in a band called The Rest in 1980. He worked on their album cover From Slippery When Wet and has had an extensive career working with Bon Jovi, let alone all the other bands he worked with, like Skid Row, Poison, Motley Crue, Twisted Sister, and so many more. So tonight we're talking Bon Jovi. And remember, you come for the hair metal, but you stay for the chaos. The chaos begins right after this.
Metal Chaos with the Guru and Rachelle.
And let's get me back in here. Let's get Charlie out of here. Let's get Stevie Rachelle onto the stage, and let's figure that out. Stevie, welcome back, man.
What's up, Anthony? How are you? And how's everybody out there that's logged in and wherever you're at on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon in July? And it's triple digits in California. In SoCal in the Valley, right? It's 100, and tomorrow's supposed to be like 110. So it's pretty hot out. I don't know about you guys, but thank you for having me, Anthony.
Charlie's kind of pissed because I went for a walk today without. Now it's cold in my house, but it was like 97 here in Fargo, North Dakota. And contrary to popular opinion, we do have air conditioning and indoor plumbing in North Dakota. So I went for a walk, but Charlie had to stay home. But anyway, awesome to be back. Last week, talking Motley Crue with Wednesday 13, and we had been steadily going about 300, a little over, a little under for the amount of viewers we were having. And last week to get like right around 480 was phenomenal. So last week was kick ass.
Agree. We were close to 500 at one point. I know it was was it 480 or 482, or was it somewhere around that?
Yeah.
So we started to approach a new record for most viewers simultaneously. Of course, over the podcast, some people come on for 20 minutes and then bail. Some people stay for the whole 2 hours. Some people are in here for 5 minutes and go, these guys blow, I'm out of here. And my little earpod things, I must have like greasy ears or something, because it feels like they're slipping out.
That happens to me too. I think maybe my like the little bulb thing, I think it's maybe too big or something. It's so big I can barely get it in. Anyway, then it falls out. So that's part of the reason I wear this. It kind of holds it in.
So it's so big you can barely get it in the hole.
I can barely get it in. Speaking of,
disgusting.
I was gonna start telling random stories that I should. Because sometimes you forget you're doing a live, and you're just like, you and I, we talk on the phone, we get into fucking deep dark shit, and then sometimes I want to start talking about that on the live, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, there's like a couple hundred people here watching us, and I got to keep it kind of G-rated.
Got to keep it clean, as they say in the classroom. Keep it clean.
That's right. It's G-rated here. So today is Tuesday the 14th. Well, next week, Hair Metal Chaos live episode number 10, live at the Rainbow Bar and Grill, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, just like normal.
Yep.
But we're going to be side by side at one of the booths. Everybody here is invited.
Yep.
So my buddy Jeremy Lauer and I, we're going to be flying in around 9 in the morning, staying in Burbank, and we're going to be meeting you at the Rainbow in the afternoon around 3. So everybody's invited, but can't wait to do that. And it's going to be awesome to meet you and hang out in person.
And that sounded kind of fruity, but all good. And so next Tuesday, July 21st, the Rainbow Bar and Grill, as he said. So anybody that's in the SoCal area that wants to come and hang, we're going to be there. You can come down to the Rainbow, maybe call and make a reservation for a booth at 4 o'clock or whenever you're going to arrive. They got food, and we're going to be hanging. And also, we have some gifts. Everybody that comes is going to leave with something from us. And you know what? Not even
And
Anthony knows what the gifts are because it's a surprise for Anthony, too. So
I know.
next
Jeez.
Tuesday, July 21st, we'll be there by 3:30 setting up. You guys should be there by 4:30, ordering a pizza. And then from 5 to 7, we're going to do the same show, only we're going to be live. We're going to maybe take a couple of questions from the audience. And, we've invited a few of our friends down. We'll see if anybody decides to grace us with their presence. Maybe we'll get another rock star or two in the building and come and say hello and visit with us. And it's a super busy week. Next Thursday,
Yeah.
Tough will play the Whiskey with American Jet Set and Foxy Rocks. Friday, and I'll quick make this announcement.
Yeah.
It kind of parallels with some crazy news that broke today. We got to cover that for just a few minutes. Next Friday, Tough was scheduled to play with Slaughter and Quiet Riot in Anaheim at the Grove. The Grove is like a 1,500 seat kind of theater venue. It's a great place. I saw Stryper and White Lion there a couple weeks ago. I saw Piercy DeMartini and Vixen there last summer. It was awesome. That show just got postponed to the fall. Some scheduling stuff between Quiet Riot and Slaughter. They had to move it. Unfortunately, we don't. We have to move it too. In other words, we can't play. They moved it to October. They picked a date out of the three. The other two, the guys couldn't play from the other bands, and they said, "Okay, we're going to do October 17th." And I said, "That's awesome for you guys. I'll be in Sao Paulo, Brazil, at the Jai Club with Lorraine Lewis on October 17th. So Tough will no longer appear at the Grove show when it's replayed. However, go to my social media. We announced a really cool special edition private showcase for a limited 35, 40 fans. We've already sold half the tickets. And some of our rocker friends are going to show up too, hopefully, and a few of our close friends. We're going to have a cool Friday night on Friday, July 24th. Special information will be delivered upon purchase of the tickets. And there's other details with it. Go check out the flyer that's circulating on Facebook. Myself, Michael Lean, Todd Chase, and our guitarist, Dougie Manross, we're sharing it. Really bummed out because we have a lot of friends coming in from out of town, and that's why we reached out. And we've already had people from Nashville buy tickets, Wyoming buy tickets. I think someone from New Jersey, people from San Diego, a couple from Phoenix are coming in. And that doesn't even include Anthony. The Guru is going to be at all our shows. He's coming in from North Dakota. We have some other friends from Texas, my old buddies from Wisconsin, former roommates from Canada, Nashville, Florida. It's going to be great. And some of these people you guys will know. It's going to be a lot of fun. And with that, Anthony, since I mentioned
Yeah.
Quiet Riot, you want to quick drop that?
Yeah. So news came out today. Just all of a sudden on Facebook, and so Stevie did an article about this, and I ended up doing a video after he let me know. So Stevie kind of broke the news to me that Jizzy Pearl, who has been singing in Quiet Riot for a number of years, he's done a couple different stints, but since 2019, hopped on Facebook today and said, "I am leaving Quiet Riot." He made it seem like there was no animosity, that he wished the guys well. But that announcement came, and then like an hour later
Actually,
came the
it was more than 2 hours later. It was
2 hours later,
yeah.
Quiet Riot came out with the announcement that, hey, thanks Jizzy Pearl for your service, and if you're interested in the Quiet Riot gig, telling people how to apply for that or how to send in like their stuff. So kind of shocking news in hair metal, and I don't know how much you want to go into that, but maybe when Quiet Riot is playing the Grove, maybe there will be a different singer that night.
Yeah, and I am the guy that started Metal Sludge in 1998. So if the pot has to be stirred, let's stir it. Jizzy released a
Yes.
statement at 11 a.m. Quiet Riot didn't release a statement till after 1. That's over 2 hours later. And the only thing I can
Yeah.
say to that is usually in organizations like this that are a little bit more upper level, bands that have, toured and released records and stuff, when there's going to be a split, a lot of times they say collectively, hey, let's all be on the same page. Let's release a statement. Are you okay with this? Are you okay? Are we okay? Let's all agree this will be our statement. Then we simultaneously release on said day at said time at the same time. Usually this is not like somebody says something on the Thursday night and then Friday or Saturday somebody goes, yeah, that happened, and then 2 weeks later the statement is given. So I don't know. Sounds a little odd that it wasn't a collective agreement statement, or at least not that it appears. Two totally different statements kind of came separately, and it just seems a little odd. So I don't know if there was some tension in Quiet Ride or something went sideways, but obviously Jizzy said he's going to fulfill his obligations. And from what I remember over the years, and I've been friends with all the band members, including the late, great Kevin DeBro and Frankie Benali, but when a guy would come into that band, if you weren't an OG, you signed a contract on an annual basis. Your contract is from January 1st till December 31st each year. And I think they're given a time frame, too, before the end of the year. If they're going to not sign the next one, you kind of got to give a little notice, and it's now July. Jizzy's obviously giving his notice that he's not going to be there for 2027. And that's kind of crazy because I thought Jizzy was a great fit. We played a few shows with those guys. Rudy's a sweetheart. Alex is a great guy. Johnny, I don't know that well. I've known Jizzy forever. As you said, he's been in the band twice. By just doing the article earlier today, he was in 2013 to 16. He left. Came back in 2019, and that's after they went through a couple of guys, including, I think the last guy was Durbin. Wasn't he like a vocalist from The Voice or one of those kind of shows? And
one of those reality shows.
And while he was a great singer, he just seemed he was a young kid. He looked like could have been Frankie's grandson up there. He was very, very young. So
and Jizzy put out a Love Hate album last year, Punk Rock Fiesta. And I'm sure he would maybe love to donate more time to Love Hate. I can't imagine Love Hate being as financially beneficial as Quiet Riot still can get all those casino shows. They can do all those fly-in dates. Maybe Jizzy just wants to slow down.
Yeah,
and he's 68. He can do some Love Hate, do some shows here and there, but maybe that's what he wants to do, and he doesn't want to. I mean, who knows? And Jizzy, by the way, and I said in the video that I did on the story, man, come on and talk about what you're getting. Talk about your career. Talk about what the plan is. Promote what is going on with Jizzy Pearl, because his statement made it seem like he still wants to be creative,
right,
and do music. So I talked in my video about like, hey, what's going to go on with Quiet Riot? Rudy Sarzo looks awesome, plays awesome, but he's 75, but Frankie's wife Regina owns the name. So I think even if Rudy got to the point where he was like, you know what, I need to slow down, I still envision Quiet Riot being an entity.
Right. And I will just add this. When you said, maybe Jizzy can't make as much money with Quiet Riot as or with Love Hate as he would with Quiet Riot. The only thing I'll say to that is this. When Jizzy goes, usually annually, it's either once or twice a year, he'll go to England. And he's got a following there because back in the day, Love Hate supported AC/DC, at some point Skid Row, and at some point Dio. And a lot of those dates were in England, in the UK, in that greater area. So he's got a following. He's continued to go there he goes early too, which is kind of crazy. He goes January or February when the weather is just brutal. But Jizzy will go, and I watched some of those videos. Some of those shows, he's drawn 750 people. I mean, they're packing him in, and I know he's probably making a good chunk of change for those 15 or 18 shows. But that's the month of February. Like he's not doing that every month. Where you say with Quiet Riot, they're doing 6 shows in June, 6 in July, 6 or 7 in August, 5 or 6 in September, 4 or 5 in October. 40, 50, 60 shows a year. Love Hate might do 20. So, but there's more money in the pot for him with Love Hate. It's also his band. And, merchandise, he makes, the larger lion's share. Obviously, with Quiet Riot, he gets a cut. But again, it is what it is. These guys all have their opportunities. Guys are, rotating. and for some reason, obviously some of these bands have to replace singers. Some have done it for various reasons. Guys have passed away. Warrant, Great White,
Yep.
Firehouse, obviously Quiet Riot, Skid Row for different reasons. Queensryche for different reasons. Vixen,
Yep.
So but that was kind of a big deal in the hair metal news, and we reported it on the Metal Sludge, and of course Mr. Guru did. So
And
there you have
and
it.
you bet, and I'm gonna go through a couple super chats here, and we got about what do we got? About 15 minutes till we get Mark Weiss in. Mark Weiss, the legendary rock photographer. So
Yep.
excited about that. But a couple things I wanted to point out. Maurice McFadden, man, became a YouTube member. If you want to support the channel, you can go to the channel and hit join, and there's different levels, but just that's an option for you. Thank you so much. And then after I do a couple of these super chats, then we're going to go through what's been going on Metal Sludge and on the Hair Metal Guru YouTube channel over the week. But Brian Linville, my buddy, said, "Hey Guru, thanks for sending my review of What Comes Around Goes Around to Stevie." Brian has a TikTok channel. Sent me his review of What Comes Around Goes Around. I was like, shit, yeah, I'm going to pass it on. He loves that record. He's a good guy, supports the channel. So awesome. So I don't know, Stevie, if you want to say something. He big fan of your record.
Hey, what's up, Brian? I already sent him a couple messages on TikTok. I saw
Oh,
it. He's walking through the house, and he does different reviews, and I saw that, and then I reached out and hit him up, and he seemed to be stoked. So we kind of went back and forth a little bit. Keep chirping on those. I'm gonna go grab a couple things that I want to show about
yep.
Mark Weiss stuff, but go ahead and
Abs-
announce some of
abs-
those.
Absolutely. Next, we got Sheldon Bergenheiner. Jeez, my fucking eyes are getting bad. You guys are the best. Popping in real quick. Time to watch the MLB All Star Game. The All Star Game over here, Metal Chaos. I think you're saying that the All Star Game is the best and not us. Just kidding. Thanks a lot, man. And hey, we do the lives, but after the lives, the episode is always up. So you can go watch it anytime. It just won't be live. But man, Sheldon, thanks a lot. That's really cool. Enjoy the All Star Game. The rest of these fuckers will be basking in the glory of Hair Metal Chaos Live. Just kidding. And we got Mr. Neil Phipps. Have you listened to Wolfgang's band Mammoth? I've seen him twice live. Wolf kicks ass. I've seen live footage. He looks awesome. I've listened to some of the singles and really liked him. But I'm just going to be honest. I haven't dug deep. I haven't sat and listened to the records. I really should because, I want to be the guy that promotes new guys doing rock, but I get so busy and behind. So I haven't, but I've listened to some stuff and I've liked what I've heard. Stevie, have you listened to Wolfgang Van Halen?
Yeah, and I've been a little critical of him at times. Here's why. It's horrible that he had to experience, his father passing away, which is
Yep.
horrible for any of us that have gone through that with a parent or a close sibling or friend. But the one thing I thought is for the longest time is he's kind of, I guess, maybe a little angry or
Yep.
miserable. And, when he
Yep.
gets in these wars on Twitter, which is where he spent most of his time, it was just like, some of it was just a little, it was very crybaby-ish, and I'm thinking, for God, for a guy that's have the opportunities you have, and for anybody that doesn't think that he's had the craziest golden spoon handed to his hand from
Yeah.
birth
Of
on up,
course.
you're out of your mind. Is he talented? 100%. I mean, the guy played all the drums on his record. He's playing all the guitar, the leads. What is crazy is, as big as he is and as big as his hands are, that he's playing. I mean, I've been messing around with guitar for my whole life. I don't understand. I got pretty big hands too, just for the record. But I know guitar players, and I can't understand how they put their fingers in these patterns,
Fuck no.
within millimeters of each other. It's just crazy. But he's great. He's a great player, great singer. Not my style of music. And at the end of the day, I thought the song "Distance" was good, but they played it so much that if you listen to something enough, it's gonna become where you know it. So good for him. Obviously, he's had success. Um, but
Yep.
I'm not, it's not like I'm listening to Mammoth, sitting around with a
Yeah.
CD cranking, because it's just not
Right.
exact. I'm also not a Tool fan, or some of the prog metal bands that have appeared in the last 20 or 25 years. It's not my Meshuggah, whatever he's kind of in, or his styles kind of connect with at some points. That's just not me. So, but he's
Okay.
obviously got a fan base.
And guys, there are a couple more super chats that I will get to. I promise. But we got 10 minutes to go through what's going on Metal Sludge, what's going on the Hair Metal Guru. We do have over 250 people in. Let everybody
Awesome.
know, hey, the show is going on. We got Mark Weiss coming on to talk Bon Jovi here shortly. So that's going to be awesome. So Stevie, what's been going on Metal Sludge that you need to tell everybody about?
I'm gonna get this out of the way, and I'll make it short. But every week I have to say this, and it sucks. I'm reporting another death. A few days ago, we obviously got news of a guy named Kevin Chown, which I didn't really know him. I knew of him through people. He was playing bass in Steelheart the last 8 or 10 years. He passed away. He was battling
Yeah.
cancer. He was 56 years old, originally from Michigan. He played with everybody. I mean, he played with Paul Gilbert. He played with Billy Sheehan. He played with Sebastian Bach. He played with. I mean, go find his name and the tributes to him.
Right.
I never met him, but every single thing I saw was he was the nicest guy. He was friendly. He was happy and talented, like ridiculous talent, could play every instrument. And sadly, Kevin Chown, who played in Steelheart for the last 8 or 10 years, had passed away from cancer. He was only 56 years old, and man,
Yeah.
that's a horrible thing. Rest in peace to Kevin.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to talk about, and you covered this as well. I put out an interview with Mark Simon from
Hmm.
Wildside on Monday, and I have said the 1992 Wildside Under the Influence album is one of my favorite records of all time. I
Hmm.
have said that was the logical follow up to Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. So you got the
Right.
whole story of Under the Influence. You got his story of being in a band called Saint Valentine and playing a show and having a unknown band called Guns N' Roses open up the show. He
Hmm.
did when they were recording Under the Influence, they were recording at Eddie Van Halen's studio. He had some cool stories about working with Eddie Van Halen, and I know you covered that. But yeah, so that interview came out yesterday, and Mark Simon from Wildside.
And that was actually my number two that I wanted to talk about. Even though you had originally shared it, and obviously I picked it up, I watched it. I know Mark. I've known Mark forever.
Mhm.
He's a friend, and
You hooked us up, so thank you
yeah,
for that.
yeah. And I knew a lot of that stuff, but hearing him
Yep.
recall some of the stuff is just amazing. When he talked about that rehearsal studio in Burbank that they shared with other bands, we were one of the bands at some point that shared that room. When we were hanging out at some point, and we met them. We met them on the set of Heavy Metal Thunder and Mud, the Thud show,
Yeah.
when the
Yep.
Mud Wrestler girls and they came up and did, I don't know, Dance Swing or whatever their song was, and we were watching, and I was like, these guys are great. And we met them that day and started hanging out, and then we put them on a couple of our shows and started giving them a little love, and they at some point got the ball rolling and got a lot of hype, and got picked up by Capitol, like Mark said, huge record deal. Myself and George did go up to 5150 one day. That was an interesting thing. Amazing to be there. But Mark's got some awesome stories. So if you like that band, or you like Kiss, Eddie Van Halen,
Yeah.
5150, Sunset Strip, there's
Yeah.
just a ton, like you said, they're playing the Troubadour, and the first slot band is Guns N' Roses in
Right.
1985.
Right.
And so, yeah, great interview, killer stuff. And it just dropped yesterday. So
Yep.
for anybody that
Yep.
hasn't watched it, go find it on the Guru channel, or if you go to Sludge, you can follow it there and watch it.
Yep.
It's a great interview. It's over 100 minutes, and Mark's got awesome stories.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've done a couple videos lately that have gone kind of crazy on Motley Crue
Yep.
and their the vocal issues of Vince Neil. I did one where I said I think Motley's done their first show on July 4th, it was, the vocals were pretty bad. That video is at 99,000 views. And then I did another one where
In a
I
couple days. In a couple days, right?
yeah, right. And then I did another one. Their next show was July 12th in Vancouver, and I think I found them using tapes, which I know a lot of people do, but I just talked about it. Said I think a lot of people were like, "Wow, Vince sounds a lot better." I was like, well, yeah. I mean, he does, because I think they're using tapes. So anyway, there's a couple videos that I did recently on Motley Crue that have done really well view wise. So those are a couple other things I've covered. What else are you doing on Sludge?
Yeah, and I saw part of that clip too, where Vince is walking with the mic stand, and he's got the mic stand out here, and all of a sudden you hear a whole line of vocals start to go, but then the volume backs down really quick. And
Yes.
then Vince goes like
Yes.
this, and then by that point it's off, So, and I guess when that's happening, a lot of times it's a guy that's working it. Not saying it, they're doing it, but when they are,
Yep.
it's not like a tape is just rolling. There is a live mic, and they feed some stuff in and out, which the guys control. There's probably a guy that's strictly dealing with Vince's vocals, and he's got a monitor board with different tracks and different things. It's all digital and cues, and so that way he can ride it, which means he can kind of push it up a little bit if Vince needs help, or bring it back. And that's how that works. Not
Right.
that I know, but I've heard. So
What else you got going on Sludge?
the other thing I'll say is I did a little blurb on Ruben Blue used to run a magazine back here in Hollywood called Rock City News. And
Yep.
pre-Rock City News or Hollywood Rocks or those magazines, there was a magazine circulating in Hollywood in the early 80s, and it was called Scratch, which was still around up until 85. He just shared something last week, which I covered on Sludge. If you go check out the Sludge, it'll say something like, it's got photos of Guns N' Roses, a shot of Bret Michaels, a couple of Tammy, and they're all from those guys on the local scene in 85. The Guns N' Roses photos. Did you look at those?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, dude, they're killer. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh, I saw your article. Yes,
Axl's
that's
hair
right.
is like this,
Yes.
and they look amazing.
Yes.
It's like Hanoi Rock
forgot, yeah.
stars,
Totally.
So, but and so Ruben's putting out a bunch of these magazines like Scenesters and different stuff, and resharing some of this old stuff. His archives
Yep.
are crazy, and I know a lot of the fans that follow this probably like those old Rock City Newses from 86, 87, 88, 89, but Scratch is even a year or two earlier, and the stuff that he shared and the photos of Guns N' Roses are amazing. Some killer shots of Tammy, a killer shot of Bret. And again, this is all before any of them had a record deal.
Right.
And they're like at the Troubadour, the Roxy, the Whiskey, the killer shots. Go check that out.
Well, and speaking of killer shots, we will have the killer shot artist coming up soon when Mark Weiss comes in, who has photographed everybody. And I have some really cool pics, and we're going to get him here in just a couple minutes. I just wanted to say the last video that I want to talk about, July 9th of this year, was the 3rd anniversary of the very first video I ever did on the Hair Metal Guru YouTube channel. So I had Patrick come on, and thank you, Patrick, for everything. But we just kind of talked about where the channel has been, where we see the channel going, and just was my way of hopefully saying thank you, because in 3 years ago I sit down and I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna rank the Warrant albums. I have no clue what the hell I'm doing on YouTube. And 3 years later, you were one of my musical heroes, Stevie. I was such a tough fan, and here we're doing this show. We're going to do a live at the Rainbow. I communicate with people whose posters used to be on my wall, and it's actually getting to the point where I think this can be what I do for a career. And so it's been a dream come true, and it all started 3 years ago. So thank you to everyone, and that's the last video I was going to tell everybody about.
Well, that's amazing. And shoot for the stars. At some point, you might even be able to drive Uber or work the drive-through at McDonald's if you keep your head down, shoulders back, keep moving forward. You might even be able to run a website, that shares guys' penis sizes.
That's right.
You have goals. Go for it,
I
dude.
do.
Do not let the world hold you back.
That's right.
But
and I'm
in all
not telling
seriousness, Anthony, you're awesome. And, I can't wait to hang out next week. We're going to have a killer week. There's a bunch of stuff most of those people know about. There's some other stuff coming up, and we'll have some surprises for your ass when you get to the LAX airport, and that week is going to be amazing. So we'll be seeing you soon.
Absolutely. And so we're going to bring on Mark Weiss. It's about that time, but I am going to announce right now that tomorrow, Patrick and I have been working since we started working together a year and a half ago to get an original member of Warrant on the channel. So I think it's okay because it's been confirmed. I have all the stuff. Tomorrow I will be sitting down with Steven Sweet, the drummer for Warrant, at 2 p.m. Central Time. And I am beyond excited to finally have one of those guys. I've been a lifelong fan. So anyway, that is coming up. Exciting shit happening here on the channel. So
awesome. Awesome.
So with Bon Jovi coming back into the spotlight, they're doing this huge run of shows at Madison Square Garden. They had a massive documentary put out recently. John Bon Jovi went through all his vocal issues and what he has done to get ready. I did a brief review of the first show. I said, you know what? It sounded, it's not like it's going to be perfect, but I said it was better than I expected it was going to be. So Bon Jovi is all over the news. We said, hey, let's talk about Bon Jovi. And you were the guy who said, you know what? Mark Weiss, he was at one of the first. He was at a Bon Jovi show before they were Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
He photographed them in the very early days. So we said, let's reach out to Mark Weiss. And the guy is like the legendary rock photographer of the 80s scene. Mark Weiss agreed to come on, and let's bring him into the show, and hopefully I can find him. And here, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mark Weiss to the show, the Weiss Guy.
Hey, how you doing?
Dude.
Fantastic.
It's the Three Stooges.
It is.
Good seeing you. I love it.
Mark, first of all, thanks for making the time to come on and talk a little bit about your career and your time with Bon Jovi.
Well, it was funny because when I happened to just be, reaching out to Stevie about something else, your picture came up and I had your phone number and I'm saying, did I do an interview with him? And I scrolled back a year ago and I'm reading this stuff did we do it or didn't we? And you said we didn't.
Right.
But here we are a year later, connecting again. And I've been, checking you out probably about 2 months ago.
Okay.
I became aware of you.
Okay.
I should have became aware of you when you came out, but it takes time sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
You stumble across something, the algorithms and all that. And I was pleasantly surprised to, I think one of the shows you were getting down on someone. I'm like, I'm not going to watch this guy. It's like, he's a dickhead, and I think these are my friends, And then I started watching, and then I started seeing how honest you were and how real you were. And then your creds, you serving the country and basketball coach and the teaching and all that, that gives you props, bro. And
thank you.
And it makes me want to listen to the whole thing and hear your opinions, and you're pretty much not political. I mean, you can't help it sometimes, the Bret Michaels thing,
Right.
But you served in the service, and of course, someone's going to tickle you once in a while. You can't help it.
Right.
So
it's not easy to and I still battle with. Am I gonna go say something negative about people? I feel bad because a lot of these guys were my heroes. But anyway, sometimes you cover some of the not so good side of the scene. Stevie, you're used to that. A lot of these guys are your friends.
Yeah, and Mark knows. Obviously, we've known each other the whole time, and I've kind of given you some advice along the way, Anthony. That it's a fine line to report on this stuff because at some point, I'm not just reporting as a quote unquote journalist. I'm not a traditional journalist. I didn't go to school for it. Right. It's also got some opinion in it. when I see crazy stuff happening at some point, I've reported on it. And some guys do more crazy stuff than the next guy, so maybe they get a little bit more reporting than the next guy. So, and
Right.
it's always interesting.
And maybe
Mark,
that
go
you're not,
ahead.
maybe you're not going to get the Bon Jovi interviews and all that, but you're getting the people that
Right.
are behind it. They'll be more honest, They
Right.
won't be fluff. Like, someone in a band that's, they don't want to talk about the singer, but they're going to talk about it. So you're going to get the honest truth. So that's what I like about what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Mark, you've had like one of the most amazing careers in music, started when you were a kid. And I would love to, and we're going to get, I want to talk about Bon Jovi. I have this book. Anybody who has not picked up The Decade That Rocked, you need, look at the massive and the rare photos that you will not get anywhere, like Skid Row all glammed out. I was so shocked when I saw. I was like, holy shit! Skid Row was glam. Mark, you got a lot of those photos. So I'd love to hear before we get into Bon Jovi, like how do you get your start and what leads you down this rock and roll path?
Yeah. Well, let me go back a little bit before I get there, because you mentioned that particular photo. And
Yes.
Rachel just did a couple interviews, Rachel Bolan, and they asked him about that photo, and everyone like shrivels up like, oh, that photo, oh my god, and then he tells the story, an honest story, and I never heard it in such detail before, or I would have put his quotes in the book. But what happened was, we did this photo shoot in New Jersey. They asked me to do it. And they brought all their stuff. It's not like I dressed them. I didn't put a patch on their head or their eye.
I'm trying to find it as I do this. Yeah.
I'm trying to find it too.
And so we did a photo shoot. Everyone loved it. They were glammed out. This is the same time when Guns N' Roses was still, hyping the hair. And it was like on the cusp, So John sees it. I show the pictures to John, because John was very involved in it. And he calls up Rachel and Snake. No, Rachel, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He didn't have any idea that that who it was. He goes, "It's who? John? Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "What is this? I'm looking at Mark's photos of you looking like clowns, or something like that, and with a pirate hat and all that." And he goes, "What the fuck were you thinking?" He goes, "Get back in there with Mark and do something different." And that's what we did. And it was the right move. And I forgot about that shoot. When I was doing my book at the very end, I was looking for some other Skid Row photos.
Yeah.
And in this filing cabinet, there was a red folder, and red means don't use. Now, this one was red, but it had staples and a piece of duct tape on top of it. Like, that means, like, do not go into that.
Right.
And I said, "What is this? I got to check it out." I opened it up and I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is great. I got to make it a double page, So of course I did.
Right. Here it
Anthony,
is.
I think you froze, Anthony.
Oh, did I? Okay.
So that's Snake in the red hat. And there's Scotty, there's Sebastian, there's Rachel with the pirate hats on. And there's Rob Affuso.
Yeah, and when Sebastian saw the book, he loved that photo. He's like, "Man, I love that photo." The other guys wanted to hide.
There's Rachel Bolan, the punk rocker.
Anyway,
right?
Yeah, so that's a little tie-in for the John. So I figured I'd tell that story now since you were talking about it. But,
absolutely.
So going back to my career and how I started.
Yeah.
Well, I started by mowing lawns when I was 12 years old, and I knocked on this one guy's, on his door, and I said, because his lawn was really high, and I'm like, "Do you need your lawn mowed?" And he's like, "No, I do it myself." And I'm like, "It doesn't look that way." And so he kind of laughed sarcastic, it was a little bit of a chuckle, He goes, "I'll tell you what, kid, I'll be right back." So he comes back and he goes, "I'll give you this camera if you mow my lawn for the season. This is the camera."
Right.
This is the camera, by the way.
Wow, you still have it.
Yes.
So what year is that you got that, you think, that you were mowing lawns?
73.
Wow, that's amazing.
12. And so I thought I would just hawk it for $100 at the pawn shop down the road. So how fate has it, I ended up getting in a little mini bike accident with my friend on a dead man's turn. I ended up like losing my memory for the summer. I was unconscious and I was in the hospital for the whole summer. So this camera stood on my shelf for the whole time and I couldn't take it to the pawn shop. So eventually I asked my older brother, Jay, to hand me the camera. Let me start playing around with it, open it up. Oh, wow, what's this do? Oh, wow, it opens up. What goes in there, you know? So I said, you know what? When I get better, I'm going to go to my school because they had a dark room. And I just went in at the end of this, right before the school year. I was in 8th grade. And I went in there and I said, I'm Mark, you know, I just had a motorcycle accident. I have this camera. Can you teach me how to shoot with it? And he said, sure. So that's when I fell in love with the whole process. He had this dark room. I was into Star Trek in the time, you know, with Kirk, not this new ones. I love the classics and with Spock and everything. So I always thought that little cylinder, that black cylinder, you go in there, it was like one of those transport rooms or something. And then because you go in and you see these red lights and the timers that glow in the dark. And then I saw this guy put this piece of paper in the chemicals and all of a sudden it becomes a picture. I'm like, holy cow, how did that happen? Right. And that's how I started. I started shooting my family, my friends, my dog, my brother, and the motorcycle. Did that for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Then things changed when I went to see Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young in 1974. The show when Graham Nash announced that Nixon resigned. So I was at that show.
Okay.
So it was like a Woodstock experience.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, my parents' friend's kid was a couple years older than me, and he had a camera, and he had these 2 girls, and we happened to bump into him out of like 100,000 people. And I'm like, where are you going, Kenny? He's like, I'm going to the front to take some pictures. And it's like I just watched him go in, like, you know, like, wow, look at him with these 2 chicks.
And this is all in New Jersey, right? You grew up in the New Jersey area.
I was born in Newark, moved to Old Bridge, which is really close to Sayreville, where Bon Jovi is from. And then I moved to Matawan, and that's Old Bridge. And now I'm in Rumson for the last 30 years. I spent 10 years in the city, too, in the 80s, you know, when things were happening.
In New York City.
Yeah. But that concert was in Jersey City. It was like a big show. And then I talked to Kenny like a couple of weeks later at a family event, and he showed me the pictures. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And he had them hanging up and everything. And I said, you know, how did you get the camera in? And he told me how he snuck it in. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm starting to go to conscious now. So it was Thanksgiving in 1974. And I snuck out of my house, and I told my parents that I was going to my friend Frank's house. Right. And Frank said he was going to my house, and we ended up meeting at the train station and go and see Elton John. And I had this camera right here in there, and I stuck it down my, pants. And
I was going to say, what is the sneaking in trick? You put it under your balls, basically, in your crotch, or?
First of all, Kenny taught me how to do this with the ticket stubs. Like, you pretend that you have a ticket stub, and you give the guy a few bucks, and he lets you in. So I didn't have a ticket. And so they're not going to pat you down because they're on the sly already, So I'm basically buying my way in with the camera. But I used to have fry boots when I got a little more creative, and I had the zoom lenses when Zeppelin played and Kiss, and I had a little more equipment. I had to be creative. I had a hoodie, and I had to like put the strap around the back and then kind of have it dangle. So when they checked, I was like this, So I knew all the tricks, and then when the lights went down, I would jump over. But anyway, this Elton John show, I had one roll of film, and I was pretty far back. It's in the book. It's a small picture. It's not very good, but it's my history, so I figured I'd throw it.
Yeah.
And I ran out of film. I'm like, all right, that's all right. I'm going to watch the show. I liked Elton John. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road just came out. I was a big fan. Mm-hmm. And then John Lennon comes out. His last live appearance, and I didn't have my camera, not that I would have great shots, but still. anyway, so that was my first lesson. Always have film. Always whatever it takes. So I would always shoot bring like 20 rolls of film, and 20 rolls of film that ends up being like $600 if you develop it and that whole deal. Eventually, I mean, it led up to that. Probably for the next few years, I shot like maybe 3 rolls or 4 rolls. So it's not like you can go crazy on digital. You had to take your time and get the shot and all that. And then you develop them, the black and whites when you get home. And then the color, you do color. But I shot mostly black and white because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And those shots that I shot back then in 76, I started taking pictures at the concerts and then selling them in front of the concerts and in my high school. I know in my high school locker, selling them for $1 a piece. Peter Frampton played. All the girls came up to me. I was a shy kid, and all these girls came up to me. Oh, Peter Frampton. Oh, how was he? And I got a picture. Next thing you know, I said, you want to come over and go in the dark room? We can develop some pictures.
I know how that works.
Yeah.
I know how that works.
See what develops,
Go ahead.
So then I did that for like maybe 76, 77 were big years of doing that. And then in 77, Kiss played in December. And I took some killer shots, Ace with his smoking guitar. And then when they came around again in February, they played first. And then in December, that's the Elton John shot.
That's the Elton John shot.
There you go. Wow.
And the book, it tells us the stories that I'm telling, a little more,
right.
a little more literal, But anyway, so then so they played in February at the Garden for the first time, and then they played again in December. So in December, I brought all these pictures. I had them, a whole bunch of them this time. Yeah, that's the Ace shot. That's the shot that got me arrested. I was selling in front of the concert.
Yeah.
I went into the paddy wagon with all the shirt sellers, and the judge said, if you want your pictures, you got to come back before the judge. And I'm like, just don't tell my parents, So I went home after the morning, and then I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? And so I'm looking, and I see Circus Magazine that's sitting on. My brother had a subscription, and I opened it up in the masthead, and I figured out my pictures are just as good as this, centerfold, I think I could do that, because they did all live shots, some studio, and so I looked at where they were from, and they were in New York. I hopped on the train, the same train I got arrested, that from the Garden, took a subway, brought my whatever I put together, my portfolio. And I went to the door, and the secretary kind of took a liking to me.
And this is Circus Records, their office you went to.
Circus Magazine, yeah.
Circus Magazine. Magazine.
Yeah, Jerry Rothberg was the editor, and the publisher, the owner. He was there, and Al Rudolph was the art director. And Marianne, who was the secretary, said, just hang out. I told them that you're here. I told them what happened, that you got arrested, and that she thought I was cute and everything. And so I waited like 3 hours, and finally Al came out and said, come on in, kid. And I said, and I'm just like 17 years old, And so I went in there, and he's like, oh, I like what you're doing. I like your photography. And then he brought Jerry in, the big guy who owned the thing, who I knew who he was, and he gave me some encouraging, he's like, Mark, I like what you're doing, but you have to shoot Kodachrome with the flash. I'm like, I don't like to shoot flash because it ruins the available light. It's not pretty.
Right. So
I said, but whatever it takes. So I really didn't do it. I didn't want to compromise the aesthetics of concerts and flash it out. But then when Aerosmith played in that summer in '78 with Giant Stadium with Ted Nugent, I stuck my camera in, and it was daylight. They played daylight, so you didn't need a flash. And I got my first picture, which is his centerfold of Steven Tyler.
Okay.
And then the ball started rolling, and then eventually Lieber Krebs. That's an outtake from it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
and
then Lieber Krebs had AC/DC and the Scorpions, and then the ball started rolling. He's like, who's this kid who's this Mark Weiss that has the credits? And they were throwing Ted Nugent in there because Circus used to, whoever the hot band was at the time, they would just every issue. So
yeah.
So I mean, I I got like $100 for the centerfold and $50 for a small. And then eventually, a year later, I became the staff photographer, and Van Halen in '79 at Convention Hall in Asbury Park was like one of my first assignments. And the deal was they'll get me the photo pass, and I have to give them all the pictures, and they own them. And I only got paid $120. That was my first photo at Convention Hall of Eddie Van Halen. That's the first time I met him.
Okay.
Wow. Great shots, too.
Oh,
and amazing.
That was a centerfold. And so, and I brought that Steven Tyler. So what happened with that is, I'm a circus photographer. I'm going backstage. I didn't even have a backstage pass. So I went early, and I went to the will call, and I said, I'm Mark Weiss from Circus Magazine. I had the Steven Tyler centerfold with me too. The Beatles were on the cover on that one, October.
Okay.
And I hear them doing sound check, and I think Noel Monk was there, and they were wrapping up sound check, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just follow him up the stairs, and say hi to him, tell him who I am. I'm on assignment for circus, so I did that. I followed him up, and Michael Anthony was in there, and Eddie was drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette, and I said, hey, Mike, I'm from circus. I showed him the centerfold, and he's like, oh, cool, man, cool. Hey, Dave, Mark, look at this stuff. He's gonna get us in circus,
Right.
They were just getting in the magazines. They weren't really full blown out. Like, that was
right. They weren't superstars yet.
No, they were playing theaters, but 3,000 seaters, they were definitely, they were up and coming. I mean, they were more than
right.
So then I asked Eddie, I said, can I take a picture of you? And he didn't say anything. He just smiled. I took that as a yes. And through the years, or through the decade, because I shot him with Sammy too, like I would always say, can I shoot you? And he would just smile. I took the smile. I took the smile as a yes, and then I took the putting his back to me as a no.
Right.
He didn't like to say like yes or no. He just it was like, so I kind of got the vibe of, and then it was a centerfold, and it was a whole thing, and then they liked it. And the next tour came along. They invited me to get more access. Then I worked for Us Magazine and did a photo shoot for like 3 days, and they let me in their world. And next thing you know, Dave's flying me out there to shoot him flying a kite and on his day off. Right. And then
so we're gonna get into Bon Jovi. So
Bon Jovi.
this picture.
Okay.
Right here, you sent me is from 1980. Yeah. So, tell me about this shot and finding out about this kid who ends up dominating the 80s like no other rock star did. Really?
Yeah. Well, this is a total surprise to me. This shot. I was wrapping up. My book was wrapped up, The Decade That Rocked, and I'm looking for Southside Johnny photos because he was doing an event, and I was going to have him sign some photos for a charity. And so that's what I did. I went to the Freehold Raceway, or Freehold Park, or Raceway Park, where they had horse races usually. And Southside Johnny was having a show, and he was at the side drinking a beer, and I was taking pictures of him like Candace, And he's, what are you taking pictures of me for? You should be taking a picture of that kid. And I figured he just wanted to get rid of me. But regardless, I looked at him. I said, all right, I guess he wants me to leave. And then I walked over, and I just took a roll of film of this band called The Rest. And I had no idea who it was. I wrote down on the negatives, The Rest, and 1980. And when I saw the negatives decades later, looking at the South Side, it said The Rest. Now, since then, I knew The Rest was John's band.
Right.
I'm like, no, this can't be. I mean,
so you forgot that you had even shot him, and he's how old there? 18?
Yeah. I didn't know.
Wow.
I didn't know who. I didn't remember shooting an opening band. I didn't.
Right.
Things. From the motorcycle accident.
Of course.
I lost my memory. I have a short-term memory even now. Like, Anthony, if I remember you next week, that would be a miracle.
Right.
It's repeat,
I hear that.
It's repeat business, but no, I'll remember.
Right.
But this John, and he wasn't Bon Jovi, he was Bon Jovi at the time.
Yep.
And I actually went to the side and said, you know, John, I think your name should be Bon Jovi. No, I'm like kidding. But I didn't say hi or anything to him. I just took pictures and threw them in the files, and then I happened to find them, like, you know, right when the book was closing. I got to put this in, and that was my introduction to him. The next time I shot him, I was working for ZZ Top at the Garden, and I didn't know. I heard about Bon Jovi and the Runaway, and they won the you know, the APP's Best Homegrown Song. So I knew about it, and they won the slot on that. And I'm like, oh, that's that Bon Jovi. I didn't put two and two that it was their kid.
Right.
I knew it was Bon Jovi from Sayreville, the same place where I was from, pretty much. And so I shot a few rolls of film, and I got this shot, and I got a bunch of shots from this. Again, didn't think much of it. There wasn't that much call for the magazines at that point. I was 83. But then in 85, when Fahrenheit was coming out, I was shooting Theater of Pain, all the promo, the gangster shots and the shots in the alley, all their promo and posters. I did all that stuff, and Doc McGee was managing them, Motley Crue, and he said, you got to shoot this, my new band, Bon Jovi. They're Jersey boys. You'll get along with them just fine.
Right.
When you're back in I was on the West Coast when I saw him, and he said, when you're back in Jersey, I want to set up a photo shoot. So we set up a photo shoot at my studio in New York, and actually that was Live Aid. We did
okay. Yes. Okay.
But there's a shot on the roof that's in my book that's by the Empire State Building's in the back of them. But we did a whole day shooting, and, you know, we became fast friends. They you know, we got along, and, you know, and they were nice guys, and they wanted to see their pictures in the magazines. I mean, the reason why I got along with all these bands, I mean, I'm very, you know, I kind of like to be a fly on the wall, but when I shoot them in the studio, I like to direct and everything. But, you know, you got to get them to like you, and I got along. Yeah, that's the first shoot I did with them. And
okay.
And so we got along, and of course I'm going to get them in the magazines. So the record companies knew I can get them in all the magazines. At that point, I'm working for Circus, Hit Parader, Faces, Cream, Rolling Stone, you know, all the rock magazines, and they want to see themselves in it. So they want to make sure Mark Weiss is shooting them.
Wait, when you see them opening for ZZ Top, are you thinking like, holy shit, this guy is going to be the next big thing? Or are you just like, oh, well, it's another decent rock band?
Yeah, I didn't think, you know, I thought they had a good image. They were definitely had a lot of confidence. And I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Runaway, the song.
Right.
You know, I like the harder stuff, really, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I didn't think much of it.
Right.
But then, yeah. So then, in '85, they liked the photos. The record company liked them. They started using them a lot. They were in the magazines, and then they had some success. And then they went on tour with 38 Special, and
right.
Doc would have me go on the road with them for a week or two and travel with them on the tour buses, and, you know, just be part of the team.
38 Special, though, that's kind of an odd pairing for them to open for like a Southern rock band. How was the fan base? Were they kind of giving, let's get these guys off the stage? Or
at that point, they were getting a little more success than 38 Special. So it quickly turned where people were going to see Bon Jovi at that point.
Right.
I think they had only the Lonely video out.
Right. In and Out of Love.
In and Out of Love. So they were, you know, they should have been almost the headliners at that point.
Right.
But we did a lot of photos, and then they got asked to do Live Aid, and, you know, John wanted me to be there to take pictures with him and all the stars like John Mellencamp and Chris Christopherson, and anyone that was there. He's like, Mark, you know, you got to get pictures with him and them. So I said, yeah, no problem. I would go and say, hey, can you meet? And, you know, they knew who John was. You know, he was getting a buzz.
But he was still an upcoming kid. He wasn't like a huge star on his own yet.
But they knew who he was, and they were, they would, welcome him, and they must have liked his music because, they respected him, and
right.
So that was good. So, and then,
Yep.
Well, you have any questions or anyone?
No, I was going to say we should check and see if we got some questions there.
Let's get into, because there are going to be a variety, and so I'm gonna, and then we'll get into Stevie. We'll have you kind of give your history with Bon Jovi, and we'll kind of move forward. But here is
we can go into Slippery, which is a whole nother
totally, and we got to get into Slippery. So here's
That's when they went
first
into the stratosphere.
Yes. Here's a super chat. Thank you guys for donating. That's so awesome. Power Ballad Breakdown 6539 says, love the channel. Stevie. Okay, this isn't going to be about Bon Jovi, but that's okay. What's the story behind the homage to American Pie at the end of I Hate Kissing You Goodbye? Was it part of the original arrangement added later in the studio, or thanks, Craig?
I love that song, and it was my idea. I mean, we're working on it, recording it, or I should say, working on the lyrics with Todd Meager, who co-wrote some of the lyrics with me. And there's that lot of bye-byes in there, and at some point, I just kind of equated it to hearing "Bye bye, Miss American Pie, drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry." And I was like, I'm going to put that in there, and I did.
Okay.
Very simple.
Thanks a lot, Craig. That's very cool. Here's a couple more. I'm assuming this is about the Quiet Riot. Parlock 480 says, at what point is a band considered a cover band? And like bands going out with one original guy. Look, I just always say, if you want to go out and play music, go out and play music. If you want to go to the show, go to the show. And if you're like, hey, I need a certain amount of original guys for me to spend my money on a ticket, you don't have to go. But I'm okay with Rudy Sarzo going out in Quiet Riot and being the only original guy. Do I wish that my favorite bands always stayed together? But that's just not the way it is. So,
and you know what? Here's a quick little analogy. Football teams, basketball teams, baseball teams at some point have a star. I was a Packer fan, Bart Starr, then we had Brett Favre, then Aaron Rodgers. Now it's Jordan Love. Things change. Even back watching TV back in the day. Remember we watched Three's Company, and everyone loved Chrissy, but then there was an issue with Suzanne Summers. She didn't agree with the contract, so they had a new Chrissy. Even in the Flintstones, remember there was a different voice? Was it for Barney Rubble or Fred, where there was a different voiceover actor in some of the Flintstone episodes, and you're like, the voice is a little different.
You're getting a little crazy now, Stevie.
Yeah, Stevie, holy shit.
But there was, there was at some point replacements, whether it's in cartoons or acting and sports, and it's going to happen in music because these guys in these bands can't live forever. So at some point, got to be a replacement or a tribute or a new version.
Right. And we're getting I got quite a few of these. I'm going to try to get through them quickly. Mike does a ton of videos with my good buddy Jones from the YouTube channel Hanging with Drummer Boy Jones. Mike, thanks a lot. Really appreciate that. A couple more here, and I think we got some from Mark coming too. What do y'all think of Kiss finally officially releasing the Anaheim Stadium show from the 76 Destroyer Tour? Well, I think, Mark, the show you got arrested at was in 77.
Right.
So I haven't heard about this, the official release of the Anaheim Stadium show. But that's Zach Cook, 3874. Zach, thanks for the super chat and the question. I haven't heard about this. Either of you two know anything about this release?
Nothing.
Maybe that's a YouTube video that he's talking about, and maybe it's just out. So I'm a Kiss fanatic, so I will go check that out. Thank you, Zach.
Got a couple. Sebastian Bach. He'll know everything about Kiss.
He'll know. And I want to get to Mark and Sebastian Bach playing at Mark's wedding. That is kind of what gets him into Skid Row through a Bon Jovi connection. Anyway, we're going to get to that. Amazing story. Keith Ryan Cartwright. Thank you so much. Krabby said he is not sure he is in Dead Daisies. Any chance Jizzy could be the latest singer? And could Stevie Rachelle be the next singer of Quiet Riot? I can hear it. Stevie, what do you think?
No,
No.
I don't fit in Quiet Riot.
And I'll just say this. People have been messaging me all day saying, is Jizzy going to go to Skid Row? I love Jizzy Pearl's voice. I don't think I can see Jizzy Pearl singing 18 in Life and I Remember You. I just really don't.
I don't either.
So, okay. That's Keith Ryan Cartwright. Thank you so much, buddy. Stephanie Mandel, Stevie's girlfriend. So looking forward to, and Mark, thanks for waiting. I've got to get through these, but so looking forward to the Rainbow on the 21st, the whiskey on the 23rd, and the VIP party on the 24th. Going to be such a great week. I can't fucking wait. I've only been to LA once. I went and ate at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. That's the only rock star thing I did. That was in 2016. So this time it's going to be epic. So everybody come to the Rainbow on the 23rd, the whiskey on the 21st, the whiskey on the 23rd, and message Stevie if you are interested in going to that VIP party because you got a message in advance. And that's from Stephanie Mandel. And next, we got a couple more here. Sheldon Bergenheiner. Hi, Mark. It was great to meet you at the last Kiss show. Thank you for the selfie.
Awesome.
Mark,
Who is that?
somebody, Sheldon Bergenheiner, apparently met you at the last Kiss show and you took a selfie with him. So he wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I mean, I was actually at the last Kiss show. I actually brought 8x10s from the ones that I got arrested on.
Right.
And I would talk to people because with my rock channel, which we'll talk later about.
Yep.
I like interviewing the fans about what they thought of the show before,
Sure.
after the fan interaction. So I would talk to them and ask them to give me a review of the show or tell me a Kiss story or whatever, whoever the band is. And if they were good and they had a good thing, and I would give them an 8x10 of the shot, signed and everything, like or the 8x10 print. It was just my way. It was probably the last show, so that was the pictures from the first show that they ever played the Garden, and then I was at the last show. I shot at both shows. It was definitely a trip.
Okay. The next one. Hey, Mark. This is from Jordan Skull. Jordan is here every week. He super chats every week. Thank you, Jordan. Hey, Mark. I heard you were at the 1980 Palladium Kiss show, the first with Eric Carr. Well, were you? And did you get any photos of that show?
I did. I think that was on assignment for Circus. So the deal I have with Circus is they paid me $125 plus expenses, and they own the photos. And that way they'll use a lot of your photos because they own them, and they don't pay $100 a picture. Now they pay $125 to this kid that wants to be in the magazine. And luckily in the 90s, when they closed down the shop, Jerry Rothberg called me up and he said, Mark, if you want your photos, come on in and just go rummage through. That's how I got all my Ozzy photos and the pink.
I was just going to ask you if you ever, if they said, hey, shoot us 5 rolls, did you shoot 6 and keep one for yourself?
Oh, that's another story.
Okay. But he did give you all your photos back after, 10 years or 15 years or something? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get all of them, so I think the Kiss might have fell through the cracks, but I got a couple of them. And I think in the magazine in 1980, in the 1980 chapter, there's a series of Eric in there of just black and white, a strip. And that was a show I remember Charlie Benanti of Anthrax tells a story that he was a fan of Kiss, obviously, everyone knows that. And he was behind the barricade, and then I'm walking in with Matt Dillon, and he stopped me, and we started talking. He goes, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I got this band, and so we had a nice conversation. But he remembers that, he goes, what was it like hanging out with those guys? And that was definitely a special night.
So, speaking of Matt Dillon, Mark, are there rock photographer groupies? I think everybody would like to know. I'd like to know.
My wife wouldn't.
Okay. Valid point. Point completely taken.
We're divorced.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'd be in the front row. I mean, in the photo pit. And I'm like right there with the band. They know I'm in with the band. They see me coming in.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the guys that stay for the whole show.
Right.
And a lot of times the bands give me passes to give to the girls. They would have singles, you know, and I would pass them to them. But I'd be taking pictures, and I used to wear my tight purple pants, you know, and my leather jeans and all that. And I used to dress kind of rock, you know. I had really long hair. I mean, my hair was really long.
Yep.
And you know, I'd get some ass pinches, and yeah, I would, you know, before I was married, I would welcome them in and partake a little bit. Of course, you know, it was the 80s.
I'm disgusted.
I'm wearing tight leather pants right now, actually. Just kidding. Jeff McPeak gave us a super chat to say he showed up late. Jeff, no problem. We just appreciate that you're here, seriously. Eden Music, Skid Row looked cool, but I don't mind the glam look either. I mean, Sebastian was so good looking. It didn't matter how he, you know, did it. He was going to be a star, but I think toning down the image was the right move. Mark, what did you think when Skid Row was like, hey, you photographed him this way, and then they changed?
Well, I photographed in 80, first of all, 85, 86, that was the height of hair, you know.
Yep.
Even Ozzy, you know, Guns N' Roses, Poison, and Poison really was they were the ones that really started it, even though they were big. Motley gets credit for it because Theater of Pain, but everyone followed, and I was hired. I shot Madam X when Brett was in the band, the guy with half white and half black hair.
Right.
John Norden, Sharon's father, they hired me from Jet Records to fly to LA, and I did a photo shoot with him. And then a year later, Maxine calls me up and says, you know, I have a new singer and a new drummer, and we have an investor. We're in Texas. We want you to come down. This is 1986. And this is the first time I met Sebastian. And I took pictures of him. And a week later, I'm flying. If you turn the page, you'll see pictures of Axl Rose with the same background with a different gel in it. And that's Axl.
Well, this is still Madam X there.
Yep, that's the band.
And then, yeah, there you go.
That was like
that
was like a week later. It's the same background, just different purple.
Right.
And so you know, I stayed there for a few days, did a bunch of pictures. I mean, they were great to shoot. I mean, I loved shooting, you know, glammy stuff. I mean, you know, they knew how to pose, and I'm taking pictures. I had a little direction. We had a concept, and so I was getting married 6 months later, and I told everyone was invited already, and I told my secretary to, you know what, the band that I hung out with for a week, you know, why don't you, they're not going to come probably, you know, why don't you invite them, you know, add a little color to the party. And so they ended up coming. They ended up driving and coming to the event, to the wedding, and yeah, that's changed a little bit of history right there. That's me and Zach.
Yeah, there it is.
Doing and Kevin DuBrose in that big shot.
Yep.
With Maxine, I think the Twisted Sister guys, and Little Steven's even in there, I think. That was at the Molly Pitcher in New Jersey, 1987 in June. And
okay.
At the end of the night, the band was kind of done, and I guess they scurried a band together with my best man Dave Feld, Face we call him, and we had Sebastian, Kevin. Actually, it was Sebastian and Chris Godzilla, the guy that was in Madam X, and Zach on guitar, and then they kind of called Kevin in. Kevin didn't want to go in, but he did. You know, he was just like shy going, and they did Bang Your Head.
Right.
Everyone played for like a half hour. I went up and did the chorus with, you know, rock and roll. We did rock and roll with Zeppelin, and it's all on YouTube. And
I was gonna say there's video of that as well, right?
yeah, when my book came out, I'm like, all right, I need something to push this, and
Yeah.
I called Rolling Stone up and I said, look, I got this footage that no one's seen, and has this book, and they interviewed me, and they did a nice spread in the magazine, and they also, posted the videos as an exclusive. So it's up there. Yeah, there's about 2 or 3 videos.
And I want to get it because I was so shocked when that video. I'm like, you actually had footage of the performance of Sebastian Bach that ended up getting him into Skid Row. It was wild. Everyone needs to go check that out on YouTube. I'm going to finish up a couple more of these questions, and then we're going to, I think, get into Slippery When Wet. So that one mortgage guy. Thanks for the super chat. My ex-wife, who was Stevie's ex-girlfriend, grew up with Bon Jovi. His parents had ashtrays that were built into the floor of their home. She grew up in New Jersey. So that one mortgage guy, thanks for the super chat. And
who's your ex-wife?
Yeah.
That became is Stevie's ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, that's narrowed it down to like 5,838 girls.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. So thank you for that super chat. Very cool. I appreciate it. Bobby, Mark, do you see having a camera in a cell phone? Do you think having a camera in a cell phone hurt the rock photographer? How has it changed over the years, Mark?
Well, first there was digital, and with digital, you could just take a lot of photos, and if you're a good editor, you're going to get a good shot if you know how to point a camera and zoom in. So that was the first step of digital, and then making these phones quality almost just as good with the right lighting. I mean, obviously with dark lighting, it's not, but I mean, I'm all for, I don't even like taking my cameras. They're heavy, so if I can take my camera, my cell phone, and put it on RAW and take some pictures, why not? And it's all about, making it an image, processing it right. Even on the phone, you can't just take it. I mean, there's a lot of crap that you get on the phone, but what was the question? Is it hurting?
Does all the access and everybody having cameras, is that like hurting rock photography? Like, why do we need rock photographers when anybody can take pictures everywhere?
Well, I think the art of being a rock photographer kind of left us when that happened, really, because now, like, the bands are taking pictures backstage, their friends, they're doing videos. Now, I think what's happening now is with the tour photographers, and there's a lot of them. I mean, they're making a career out of it. I think they do video too, and they do photos. And it's not like back in the 80s, there was just a handful of us that really had the access. And it took some time to develop it and get it out there, get it in the magazines. Now everything's instant. It's a lot more work for these photographers, and they don't get as much money. I mean, I own all my photos, so I never got hired by the bands. I mean, I did for album covers and special shoots, but I was always like, I just want to hang out, pay for my travel expenses and be on the road, and I'll take pictures. You can look at them and you can tell me which ones you don't want in the magazines. And I'd have all these photos, and eventually the record companies would buy them back from me, or they'd use them for the tour book because they couldn't really afford me to go on the road for a week, maybe for a day, and you need more than a day, so if the record company hired a photographer for a day, it's not enough, and there wasn't big budgets. So I just love being around the bands, having fun and doing my thing. Now today, these photographers are on the road all the time. It's like they're like one of the road crew, and there's a lot of good ones out there. I mean, they're great. There's even an award for it now, like tour photographers, so there's definitely room for photographers. I only shoot bands that I like to shoot, and I use it for rating. I don't look to make money shooting bands or whatever, but I am with my Rocked. I started a magazine called Rocked.
Yep.
It's a website that I'm developing where I'm having photographers like going to submit their work, and I'm going to give them each a page, and it's going to be called Rocked Scene, and then have their name in there and their social media, and then basically have a platform for these photographers to not just shoot bands that I shoot, but shoot rock bands, like new rock bands, you know, and whatever their rock scene is, give them a platform so it goes there. So that way, you know, their followers come and check it out. I give them a platform, maybe it'll help them get a photo pass, you know, they can develop themselves, and I can sit back. They just don't throw them on. They have to send them to me, give me the best choices. Then I edit them. So I'll be the editor, obviously, and I'll put the best photos in there and pick them, and then just give them a platform, and it will link back to their social media, and hopefully it helps them out. I mean, I just turned 67. I don't want to run around the world really anymore.
Right.
I will if I get asked, but I'm not throwing myself out there. Yeah, so I encourage the art of photography, and now with Youngblood and bands like that, you know, it's like fun to shoot these bands. I shot Youngblood. Well, I shot him at Back to the Beginning.
Back to the Beginning, yeah.
Yep.
But I also shot him in Atlantic City, and like, wow, it's like I never had so much fun shooting somebody, and the images I got were incredible. So I think a lot of bands are inspired by him, and I think we're going to find a lot of rock bands. You know, everyone's saying, I know Eddie Trunk's always saying, we need one big rock star to create the wave, and you know, and I think that he's the guy, and Eddie does too, and I know a lot of people do. So, you know, hopefully it'll encourage. I mean, look, this genre, the 80s, has never been so big. It's bigger now than it was back then, really. Like these bands like that are used to play, you know, theaters are now playing bigger theaters, you know.
Yeah.
They're on up with other bands. It's because the MTV and the magazines and everything, and now because of the internet, all these new fans are coming, these 20-year-olds, and they're seeing these videos that are cool, you know, the old videos, and they want to see them. So now you're seeing like a really mixed crowd, like, and even Youngblood I was interviewing people afterwards, and there's 20-year-olds, there's 16-year-olds, and then there's 70-year-olds,
50, 60-year-olds, yeah, older people.
Even 70. I've talked to people.
Stevie, there's people your age there, 70? What?
My age.
Right.
But anyway.
I do have some super chats left, but I want us to kind of get more into the Bon Jovi. I know people are especially wanting to hear us, I think, talk about Slippery When Wet, the album that exploded them, and you worked on the album cover, and I want to but Stevie, like, let's get you, like, were you a Bon Jovi fan back in the day? When did you discover them? Like, tell us a little bit about your introduction to that band. And I'm going to go let Charlie out here real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I never actually really hung out or met John, but I was standing next to him at Gazzari's for 15 minutes, and I didn't even realize he was next to me. It was in '89. He was on tour, or I should say Skid Row was on tour with them. They came to Gazzari's on a Sunday night, and me and Michael were there, and at some point I saw Snake and Scotty coming up the steps. At some point I started engaging with them. We had already met, I think, a couple of weeks or a month earlier when they did a few shows locally. And so at one point, me and Snake were talking, and then some people came up and started taking photos. And at that point, I realized that John was standing right next to me. But he was kind of doing one of these kind of things, you know. He was kind of like probably trying to be a little incognito. This is early '89. At this point, his profile had went through the stratosphere. And I was real focused. I was talking to Snake and Scotty. And then at some point, there's a photo floating around of me and Snake. John's actually immediately to my left, but he didn't get in the picture. So if Mark would have been there, he would have probably got John as well. I would love to have that photo. I had seen him out, you know, in concert a few times. I was a fan. We actually share the same birthday, March 2nd. Over the years, there's probably a couple of, you know, small interactions I had with them. Alec Johnsuch came to a tough show in New Jersey once at Studio One. in Newark club show. But I think that was after he was out of the band. It was in like the probably 93, 94 area. And I think he was already out of the group. But I was a fan. I loved some of the songs, and I bought the Slippery When Wet record. I had one of the advanced, I don't know if it was a teaser or just an early release with the girl wearing the shirt. Now is that one of your shots, Mark?
Of course, they're all
And
my.
then, but then was it the label that pulled that? Because was it?
I can tell the story.
Okay, so you tell that story. I had one of those, but then it became obsolete because they did the new one with the black in the water or whatever.
Before there was the black one, there was the hand soap, and there was the couple other versions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, originally it was called Wanted, Dead or Wanted. That was the original.
Yes.
And I went to Vancouver with that title. Now, before I went to Vancouver and before the band went to Vancouver to record, I shot them with beards. They all grew beards, and they wore Billy the Kid like hats and all that. It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Yeah, so there's all like 5 photos. They all came in at different days. I shot them. I put together this Wanted poster. I like frayed the ends and everything, and like that was the cover. You know, I thought it was the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then the record company said, "Oh, so I did that, and then I was going to go to Vancouver and shoot them with stage clothes in like some kind of like a warehouse, like they were hiding out." Because the record company thought that the beards was too much. Like that alone to be the cover is like just too much. Right. So I said, okay, we'll put the poster in the background of this like old abandoned warehouse or hideaway, and because it said the Bon Jovi gang on the poster, and just put him in front and clean shaven and looking good and the whole deal. And they were in front of it. So I went to Vancouver for a few days, and where they were still mixing or producing, and we did that shoot, and that was it. I figured we had it. I flew back home. When we got back, I think Doc put his foot down. He goes like, you know, you guys aren't cowboys. You're from Jersey. You know, like get the fuck back to Jersey, and let's do some shots of something else.
Right.
So I don't know if it was Doc or John, but up there was the number 5 club, strip club, and these girls would be in plexiglass. I mean, I went there a few times with the guys while I was up there, and they would throw water on them, and, you know, they would be in this, you know, wet T-shirts with the plexiglass and the water, like they were in a shower. Mm-hmm. So, and then there was also, it was very hilly there, so there's all these signs that says Slippery When Wet. So I guess they put 2 and 2 together, and the new album title was called Slippery When Wet. So they thought of that up there, and they told me, John told me the concept, and he's like, when we come back, we want to set up a car wash shot in front of, like, John lived right across from Bradley Beach. He had an apartment there. So we got all the cars there, Dorothea's in there, and all the girlfriends and other girls. And then none of these girls had, you know, large breasts, you know, and I'm like, you know, we got to find some large breasts in this photo, you know. They were all cute, they had nice bodies, but nothing that really, you know, showed up that what I wanted, you know, for slipping.
Right.
So my friend Danny Sanchez, who was one of my best friends, and Tico, or actually Danny, I sent Danny to go to the beach to find some girl with big breasts, and Tico volunteered to go with them. So they came back with Angela, who's right in the middle there.
Right.
And then, so we had the shot, you know, we had what I wanted, you know, her right in the middle, balanced everything out really nice. And then we just took it another step further, where I shot her in my studio.
And you're just zooming in like right here, right?
Well, it was in a controlled, you know, I made a plexiglass. I wet it down like it was in the shower, like in the number 5 club. Mm-hmm. And we took a ton of photos, you know, got some ice cubes going, and took about 15 rolls of film. I really only needed to take one, but, you know, it was fun. And And so that was the cover. I turned it in. I thought that we had it. This is supposed to be the back cover.
Yeah, right.
And the front cover was that. So I turned it in. So that ended up not being the back cover. That ended up being an inside. And I did a photo shoot with the band outside of Rumson of the band with it. I had these slippery and wet signs made. So we put that in the background, and that was the back cover. And the art director put a pink border around it. I don't know why, but he did. And supposedly, when John approved it, he was in Vancouver, and he approved it with a through the Xerox machine. And the Xerox machine only shows black and white. So he approved the layout, and he thought it was, I thought the layout was a little off, like the cropping was off, and I didn't like the pink border, but I wasn't involved in that process. I took the pictures, and they, do what they want with it. So they printed like a couple 100,000 already. It was already shipped to Japan. And then when John saw the pink border, and he's like, we can't do this. And so we had to do something else. And just a little bit of, I really think that the reason why they didn't use the cover, we didn't like the pink border. We didn't like the way it was cropped, but the PMRC was happening at that point.
Right, with the girls' breasts being kind of prominent in the display or the promo, essentially.
I was with Dee Snider at the PMRC hearings. I went with them, because they were on the list, the Filthy 15.
Yep.
And that was the time when we did the, so I think they put two and two together and said, you know what, let's scrap this idea. We don't like the pink border. And this would be a way we can get out of it, and let's just do something else. And I said, okay, what are we doing? And one of the ideas was a bar of soap that's in there too. And we spent like $2,000 on a bar of soap, carved, slippery when wet, and a girl like with her hands. And I'm like, I just went through the motions. And
wow.
Me and John just said, this sucks, And
so at this point, you've already done about 3 different concepts for this album cover.
Yeah, definitely.
And not that you have to tell us the exact amount, but at this point, how much money do you think is being spent between the cowboy shots, the beach shots, the soap shots? It sounds like there's thousands and probably tens of thousands of dollars, maybe.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. I couldn't tell you really offhand. It was a long time.
Wow.
But yeah, all the film and everything else. We ended up using it for other things,
right.
Posters and eventually the single sleeves and all this other stuff. It wasn't like when the single Wanted came out, we used that,
Right.
It was all used, and it was, worth the shoot. Mm-hmm. But then really no one had any ideas, and then they had like a day to come up with something. And I was at my studio in New York. John calls me up and he's like, I'm coming over. We're going to shoot the album cover. We need to come up with something. I'm like, well, I'm all out of ideas. And he's like, well, I'm coming over, bring, get a hefty bag or like a black bag or something, I have an idea. So I got, plastic bag. I set it up. I got some oil in a spray can because he told me what he wanted to do then. And I just sprayed it, and he just wrote slippery when wet, let it drip, and he left. With
his finger, he just did that.
Yeah, he didn't stay even for the Polaroid. He's like, just send that to the record company. That's it. We're done. He left. Like I shot a bunch more, obviously, because the drips and everything. But once it got a certain point, you couldn't read it anymore. So it was gone. And I just turned it in, and that was the cover. And then the back cover was from a Wayne Isham video shoot, because I was photographing all the videos. And that was from one of the videos when they were like, doing this performance in front of like a pseudo arena with an audience in there. So they were all like saying goodbye to the thing, like they were big arena.
Right.
Right. But that's right. That was the back cover. That's the story.
Mark, I would love to know this. When I was a kid growing up, I always thought that all my favorite bands were best friends in high school, and they all, got together when they were 16 and built this band up, and you find out later on that wasn't true. Did it feel like Bon Jovi was a band back then, or did it feel like, look, John's the star and the other guys are the guys? If you can answer that, like, what did it feel like it was like?
Honestly, I always thought it was like a band, like,
Okay.
like we go on the plane together. They had their own private plane.
Yeah.
It seemed like everyone was happy. Later on, I saw that John was steering the ship a little bit more. You know what I mean? But
Right.
But no, it seemed like when they had their success in Slippery that everyone was kind of equal. I mean, I don't know what was happening in total behind the closed doors,
Right.
but everyone hung out, they partied together, and everyone liked each other. It was not until probably then. I mean, I was with him up until Keep the Faith. I was with him for 6 weeks when they did South America, and that was fun too. So I don't know where things went wrong. I guess after the Keep the Faith, maybe things started going a little sour. Right. Well, I know that's when Huey kind of joined the band too.
Yep.
Um,
Is that the bass player?
Yeah.
Yep.
So then that's when Alec went out.
Yeah, who was the original bass player, really?
Right.
Who played on the original album. But yeah.
When did you realize, like, holy shit, Slippery When Wet is not just going to be a big album. This is going to be like a life-changing album.
Well, when it starts selling 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, when it didn't stop.
It's beyond diamond, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 14 million or something just in the United States.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think it's 30 million worldwide. I think I'm not 100% sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
And it's just putting this into perspective. Mark, a photographer at that point who had already been shooting for 15 years, shot stadium shows, arena shows, budgets that were thousands and thousands, probably $10,000 more dollars for record covers. They did all those shoots, the cowboy stuff, the girl stuff, and at the end of the day, it's a garbage bag and some water. John comes over, they lay the bag out, sprinkle some water, he writes Slippery When Wet, Mark takes a couple shots, John says, I gotta go, turn it in. That's just how the industry is. How crazy is that? Like, if this and some water turned out to be the cover on a record that sold 30 million copies around the world, but in the process, Mark shot dozens of rolls of film in multiple locations with everything from girls to rock stars to backdrops and beaches, and it ends up being a garbage bag and some water. That's how this industry works.
It was the easiest shoot I ever did. I mean,
Right.
My Stay Hungry, all my album covers, Stay Hungry, Night Songs, they were all built sets and lighting and everything. This was just me and him, no assistants, a couple stands, him coming up for 10 minutes and me shooting it for 20, and that was it.
Wow.
And I'm going to point this out. Like you said, Night Songs. Mark, I would love to have you on for a separate interview where we could talk about more of that, the other stuff, if you're ever interested, because there's a lot of cool shit I would love to ask about all these other bands. Did you feel like you were friends with the Bon Jovi guys, or was it kind of like, okay, you're not part of us, or did you get close to them?
No, we were close. I mean, John's parents were at my wedding. Everyone was invited, but they were on tour,
Right.
And, when my mom passed away, they were playing Giant Stadium, and I was going up to see them, and at the rest stop, which ironically now is called the John Bon Jovi rest stop. And that's the turnaround that I did when I found out my mom passed, and they sent me flowers.
Okay.
No, yeah. I mean, I shot John's, not his wedding, but he wanted me to go to his house when and they had a big party in New York. So he had me come over. We live on the same street. He had me come over that morning, and then we took a helicopter, just me, him, and Dorothea, to the party in New York. Did some really nice photographs, which is in the book. That one with the blue suit, and
right.
Richie and Heather got married, they flew me to France and I shot their wedding. And you know, my kids used to play. You know, we had the same age. Our oldest are the same age. He has a girl, I have a boy, and I used to drop my kid Guy off with, you know, play with Stephanie Rose, and you know, we had that in common. So I remember getting this little gold pacifier or silver pacifier, and John saw it, you know, on it because my kid was only a baby, and he's like, "Oh, where'd you get that? I want to get one of those," you know. So yeah, you know, could be a playground. We bump into each other on occasion.
Sure.
But yeah.
Did you ever see like and Bon Jovi gets so big that there comes a point where he probably used to be able to go to the grocery store, and now he can't go anywhere. Did you ever get any behind the scenes, like, wow, maybe there are some difficulties with becoming as big as Bon Jovi became?
Well, I mean, it happens with anyone, movie stars, celebrities,
Right.
whatnot. I mean, Bruce is the best example of handling it the right way. I mean, he's just Bruce Springsteen, he lives around this area too, and he embraces people. I mean, he goes, he talks to them, he hangs out with them, and unassuming, and they respect him. And you know, it all depends on what your demeanor is. I mean, if you're eating in a restaurant, and you see him, you don't want to go up. You know, wait till he walks out or whatever. But I mean, you know, everyone has the same thing. You know, he's no different. But he's nice to his fans, and you know, he has the Soul Kitchen, and he's very involved in helping people. Obviously, you know, everyone knows what he's been doing, and yeah.
How does
Amazing.
how does it? And I love shit. I love Slippery When Wet. I think it's one of the greatest rock albums of that decade. How does your relationship progress towards the New Jersey album, which was another massive album? Like, were you still interacting with those guys a lot? I know you were involved. I can't remember if you did like what you did on the New Jersey album, but what happened after that?
I think John wanted to try other people out, like the big photographers. Like someone shot him. I think Timothy White shot him for Rolling Stone, and so we got him to do the album art and all that. So you know, listen, I accept whatever decisions they make. It's their choice. You know, it's like having another girlfriend. You know, you want to check it out. You know, I was always on tour with them. I did photo shoots still, but yeah, I mean, there was other people. He used different producers. You know, and you just want to see what you come up with, you know. But for behind the scenes and whatnot, up until Keep the Faith, I was like the guy that did a lot of the behind the scenes and photos for the magazines. And then after Keep the Faith, really, the magazines weren't really interested in photography and photographs of really any of the bands, and so I didn't shoot on spec anymore. Yeah, I had to hire me. So they didn't really hire me because they're not used to hiring, you know, and there was no reason for me to hang out, be on the road. You know, I had kids at that point. So that whole thing just faded away. And, you know, decades later, here we are.
And was it John directly who at some point said to you, "Hey, I want you to shoot these New Jersey guys that, you know, we're with Doc now, they're recording with Atlantic," because that's your album cover photos as well, right?
For Skid Row?
For Skid Row's debut.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and obviously took them on that too. That was the New Jersey tour that he took them as support.
Right. Well, actually, I'm very detailed in the book about the Skid Row album, because I just assumed hire me to do the album cover.
Right.
You know? And when I talked to Scott McGee, I'm like, you know, how's it been going? You know, because usually when they're in the studio, you know, I'm busy with other bands, I'm traveling with other bands, and I kind of forget about them. And now I figured out it's about time they should be probably doing the album cover. So I reached out, and he says, "Oh, we already did it." I'm like, "What? We already did it?" I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, you know, here I was responsible for somewhat of an introduction. I mean, it's not
Right.
like, I didn't like, it was just fate that it happened, and it happened at my wedding. And because of the people that I knew and the people that were there, he got the gig,
Right.
And I just thought that they owed it to me to give me to do the album cover.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I kind of like got all pissed off, I said, well, is it definitely done yet? I said, can I see it? I said, let me do a shoot on spec, and let me blow this other shoot away. I always like challenges.
Who was the photographer? Don't you want to name?
I don't know. It's just some guy that he was pretty big. He was a record company photographer.
Okay.
The record company. It's not like the band picked a photographer. The record company hired someone who goes, this guy's got a edgy black and white thing, and they saw me as Mr. Color because Last Command, Night Songs, bands that were very colorful and Jelly and all that, and they wanted to be dark and edgy. And I said, a photographer can do whatever is asked of them.
Right.
But they didn't. The record company's like, no, we're going to use this guy. Check out his stuff. He had all this black and white stuff, real cool. So I told the band, I told Scott McGee, I said, Scott, pay for the expenses. I'm going to build this alley in my studio in New Jersey. I'm going to build it. So we have control. I'll give you the cool lighting, the whole thing. We spent all day. We did some publicity photos, did individuals. And, the band was, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We need photos anyway. And then I did it, and everyone loved it. And then the answer I got why it wasn't going to be the cover was the cover already went to the ad mats, already starting to get ready to sell it. So it was too late to try to use my photo instead of theirs. So they used mine for the back cover and for single sleeves and everything else. So, but yeah, the band didn't even know about it. When they read about it in the book, they were like, geez, I didn't know you went through all that,
Right.
So anyway,
interesting.
Yeah.
I think that debut Skid Row, I love that cover. I think it's one of the greatest. And we got to get into some questions. We are, man, these lives, we can turn these into 4-hour shows because there's still so much left. I want to get into maybe the Moscow Music Peace Festival a little bit, and then we, hopefully we can talk a little bit about some of the issues, like what's happening with Bon Jovi now, where we see them going forward. I would like to get into a couple questions though, because we kind of have a lot here. Keith Ryan Cartwright, Mark, I appreciate how cool you have been with everyone, even if you did not know them or even if they could not help your career. When did photos go from $100 for the centerfold to career making money? Was there career making money, Mark?
I guess when I moved out of my parents' house, I started, I rented a house with my friend and getting assignments. I did trade shots. I did anything it took, $100 here, 200 here. So probably by like when I had my own studio in the city in '83, it was actually 2 blocks away from where Madison Square Garden was, where I got arrested. And then one of my first shoots was when Kiss took off their makeup. Ironically enough, the band that I got arrested to, they're coming in, and that's how I met Kiss for the first time. And I became their photographer from that first photo shoot. They liked me. So I shot that whole era of no makeup. I was hired. I shot all their videos, photographs, and I did photo shoots all through that decade up till, actually then when the reunion came, I shot them with makeup too, which was my dream. To photo shoot with Kiss with original makeup, which I did, which was awesome. And still to the last show they ever played. But I'd say when I moved into New York, that was, I felt pretty confident about making a living out of it, Yeah. I started.
Is there one artist that you had a cover photo or something that was like, you don't have to say the dollar amount if you don't want, but what was the biggest check for? Like, did Rolling Stone call and say, we want this photo for this album cover or for this magazine cover or this album shoot, and here's the payday?
Well, actually, fast forward, because when things started dying out in the 90s, I started working for this German magazine called Bravo.
Yep.
So I was on the set with Christina Aguilera for Genie in a Bottle. I did photos for the magazine, and Christina, I set up a studio in the background, and when there was downtime. So she liked me and she liked working with me, and I became her photographer up until for a few years. She had a lot of success. And one of my shoots that I did on spec, they wanted to use for her album cover. It's called My Reflecto. It's a Spanish album.
Mm-hmm.
And I got paid a lot of money for that, for one photo, like
right.
And that was my big payday.
Nice.
Okay.
But everything else is like, there wasn't the great big budgets, or I never made it to the Annie Leibovitz where they charged $20,000 or $30,000, $40,000,
Right.
I was like just a working photographer. I ended up owning my photographs most of the time. I kind of compromised on that end. I used to fight for it's like the bands are the ones that insisted on using me for the album covers. Like usually the record companies have their friends or their mainstay photographers that shoot all their album covers, but I kind of came in through the back door, which was kind of tough. But it seemed like every album that I did went gold or platinum. Docket Under Lock and Key, The Last Command, Anthrax, I'm the Man, Suicidal Tendencies, all across the board. And then Slippery When Wet. I mean, even though it's a simple little thing.
Right.
But
right.
But it all adds up. I mean, I'm licensing my photographs now from all those photos. I have 1-year deals, 2-year deals because I own them. They for T-shirts, for whatever they need them for. And Ozzy was a good game changer for me in '81 when I shot him for Circus Magazine.
Okay.
Became fast friends. It was him in the pink tutu was the first cover, and that's a whole nother story, which we'll talk about another show.
And
Sure.
all those photos, for everybody that is listening, that's a fan, you can go to Mark's site, links will be in there from Anthony, where you can buy pictures from all your stuff, right? There's just like a load of, you name it. You name the rock star, there's photos that Mark did, and you can order different sizes, and there's endless killer shots.
Gallery prints, and I started, I guess we'll save it for another show, but my rock magazine, I always wanted my own magazine, So I did a Kickstarter last year. I wanted to produce 2 magazines, one with David Lee Roth. Oh, there it is. And the other one was on Back to the Beginning, a whole issue on Back to the Beginning with all the bands. And I actually did a centerfold. This is the only old school photo I put in. I had to put a centerfold in. But I'm really proud of this. This is where I'm really pushing now. It's available to the public. It's only like $35, and I'll sign it and pay a little more.
And this is the debut issue, right?
Yeah, and the way it came about is Monsters of Rock cruise. Well, my book was so heavy to bring all these books on the Monsters of Rock, and they would sell out. I'd only be able to bring 100 of them. So I said, let me make something that is light and easy, and I can get a bunch in there, and it's a little more affordable than my book. And so they always sold out. So I used all the artists that were on the Monsters of Rock cruise each year for like 3 years.
Right.
And that was the first issue. And then it developed into a real magazine. Like this is like David from back in the day. And I have stories about my memoirs and some letters, kind of like a book style. But the backside is present day. So this is from M3 and all the same artists that were on the front half of the magazine. So our tagline is "Where past is present," and then I end it with a centerfold of classic. So and then we got the one shots, which I'm going to be moving towards next. Like I think I'm gonna do a Slippery When Wet one shot, with just Bon Jovi Slippery era, because it's the 40th anniversary coming up. So I'm probably gonna do a Kickstarter for that.
Okay.
And then also, you mentioned the Moscow Peace Festival. It's their anniversary coming up too, and there's a documentary that I'm in with Doc McGee.
Okay.
coming out next year. So I'm going to do a one-shot 100-page magazine on the Moscow Peace Festival.
Yeah. Okay.
Kickstarter.
Was that okay? Okay. I'm going to get to a couple more of these questions. In 2006, this is Adam Jason live. In 2006, I had the amazing opportunity to open for Bon Jovi twice on the Have a Nice Day tour in South Florida. It could have been a better experience. They treated us so well and were the best guys. Mark, was that your experience that they came off like they were the good guys of rock, Bon Jovi?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay.
They're always good with the opening acts. I mean, unless they got out of hand, they put them in place. I know the Skids had some issues with them towards the end.
Were you there when the issue happened with Sebastian and he came off the stage and John and his dad approached Sebastian?
No, I wasn't there for that one.
Okay.
You weren't there for that one.
Okay. All right. Stephanie Mandel says, hi, Mark. Who was your favorite band to work with? And if you want to answer, who were the toughest to work with?
That's my book, too. Well, the toughest is. Well, the best band, I'd have to say Motley Crue. I mean, they were fun to shoot. First time I shot Motley Crue was in 1982. It was wasn't their first shoot, but it was their first shoot that gave national attention. It was in WE magazine. I shot them with half-naked women with candelabras and smoke and a little bit of blood. And then this was in '82, right when they got signed, and they took me to the Rainbow for the first time, and all that shenanigans happened there. We all got wasted and got in fights, and and then the US Festival happened, and they played in the US Festival. Now there we go. There's Tommy at the US Festival.
Yep.
That's killer shot. And there's more too. There's just look at Nicky in his prime. This is 83, so he's 25 years old right there.
And the 200,000 people that were there, 200,000 plus, they didn't really know the music, so
right.
And they had everyone singing "Shout at the Devil," by the end. It's like, how awesome. And once that happened, it's like I couldn't.
Quiet Riot at the Fuss Festival.
That show, yeah. Ozzy had me come into that, so I had all access pass and that was fun. But yeah, Motley Crue was just, come on. I mean, they were fun to be with. I went on the tour bus and it was everything that you saw in the movie happened, and I was there. The producers asked for photographs of some of the buses and the backstage, and you could see some of the photographs or the clothing that they're wearing mimicking my photographs. They used it as reference. That was the first shoot I did with Motley.
So this is 82 right here.
Yeah, 82.
And this was in WE magazine, which is kind of like a porn magazine, right?
Yeah, it was like a Playboy. It was an offshoot of Playboy. And I did Rock Stars and Naked Women. I did Ozzy in a church with some naked women in coffins. I did Motorhead. I did Joe Perry with my old girlfriend on a motorcycle. So we did, the bands liked me because I shot them with naked women. That was a good little edge I had.
Was there anybody that was difficult? And feel free to not answer.
No, it's all right. It's in my book. I mean, and I tell the story before. I got hired to shoot Danzig for their solo album. I mean, their debut album.
Oh, this is a good story.
Yeah. So they come into my studio, and I never met him before. And, just getting ready, and I'm setting up and, put them up in the background, and I'm moving them around a little bit. Well, I asked them to move and put their head down. They weren't really cooperating, so they weren't. What I usually do is when they're not cooperating, I kind of try to break it up a little bit and move them with my hands, so I moved the one guy, I forget their name, the guitar player. I said, I just lean forward a little bit because I asked him to lean forward.
Is it the big muscle guy? Is he a big muscular guy?
I don't know.
With the hair? Okay.
I don't remember, but I said, move forward, and they wouldn't even move. So I said, no, look, move forward. Like I'm pulling you with, like I hooked you on the forehead with a hook and I'm pulling you. So they look better. So they're not like this. So I want them to go like this and then give an angle. I know everyone's best angle. And I'm just trying to create a good, strong photograph. And so I moved him and I moved the other guy. They didn't seem to mind, And then when I got to Glenn, he's like, "Don't touch me." I'm like, "All right." And then I just went back and took some photos, and I had to move Glenn forward and shoot down to make him look bigger. That's the like a little photography trick,
Because he's short.
Yeah, he was short, and his guys in his bands were tall, And when they were lined up, like they wanted to line up a certain way, it's like it didn't look right. It looked like Glenn and then this guy, and then So by moving forward and by going back with a long lens, it fixes it. So the next day, and then they go back in the dressing room. I said, "All right, I think we got it." And he goes, "We're going to do one more shot." And I said, "All right." And so they come back without shirts on. I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And so I don't know what that was about, but I took some photos with them without any shirts. It's in the book,
Right.
And then so I turned it into the record company, and I asked them how did it go, and he goes, "Well, the band loves the photos, but they don't ever want to shoot with you again."
Okay. All right. That's okay. Parlock 480 says, "I think Guns N' Roses were the first band to take the look to a street level. That is, I think, the influence for bands like Skid Row, toning down the glam. Even though Guns N' Roses started as a glam band, I mean, they toned it down, and so I think that was a big influence."
But Girls, Girls, Girls came out before that, and
exactly. They went the biker leather jacket look before GNR came out. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Dirty D, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to get through a couple, then we're going to wrap it up. And I apologize. You get going on stories and you answer questions, and maybe you don't get to everything that you wanted to get to. But Mark, man, this has been awesome. Jordan Skull, Mark, I bought the Back to the Beginning magazine. Best show ever. Can't wait to get it and see the photos. Mark's website is going to be in the description. Mark, do I just send everybody to markweiss.com or where else?
You can find everything there, but if you go to rockmag.com, it takes you right to get the magazine. But if you go to markweiss.com, you can have a choice to get the book, the magazine, the prints,
Perfect.
And there are some banners that I run on the Sludge for Mark. So if you see any Rocked magazine banners, click those and it takes you there.
Yeah, I got to update that too.
Okay. So Jordan Skull, thank you. We got a couple more and then we're going to wrap it up. S-Beard 73. Mark shot Cinderella night songs in the daytime. LOL. And then he also says, "Rest in peace, Jeff LaBar, gone on this day. I didn't know today was the anniversary."
Sad.
July 14th, 2021, 5 years ago today, if that's the correct date. So,
yeah. The reason why he says I shoot night for day or day for night is because that's what I did. That shoot was done during the day. So and Tom, when he came, he couldn't understand like why I was shooting night songs in the daytime, and it was
right.
It was out on location. And I mean, the thing is, I had strobe lights, and I didn't want to shoot in the dark. I wanted to have control over everything. So I had lights, generators all over the place. And if you light it stronger than the sun, then it overpowers the available light, and then you get what you want. And you have to judge the Polaroid and see what it really is going to look like. So there was a lot of Polaroids there. But
okay.
I told Tom I shoot day for night, he laughs. We still have a joke about it.
Right.
He goes, "I don't understand what that means," but he trusted that. He goes, he trusted that cat.
Right. Thank you, S-Beard. Nick Fuller, Mark, did you take any photos or Polaroids of Gene Simmons' 5,000 girlfriends?
No, he took the Polaroids, but I did shoot him for a photo shoot on 87 with a concept where each guy had his own fantasy. It was using the tour book and all sorts of promo stuff. And Gene's was to have like 20 girls around him scantily dressed, and they were playmates. We picked them out of the Playmate modeling agency and all that.
Right.
So Gene was in the throne, and all these girls would be like, over him, going on weird masks and things. It was his old fantasy. Eric Carr had a he was in jail with a couple of girls, you know. Bruce Kulick was in a motorcycle. I made him look tough, you know. And Paul was in a nurse scenario. We had 3 nurses in, like, you know, nurse outfits. That was my favorite one, actually.
Right. And then we got one more, and then we're going to ask Mark to maybe sum up his experience with Bon Jovi, what his relationship is like with them now. And here's the last super chat. Thank you guys, everyone, for the super chats. We have had, I think, up to 325 people at the show tonight. That's amazing. Jordan Skoll says the Japanese LP of Slippery When Wet has the hot woman on it. I like that version more. And the teenage version of me probably did too, Jordan. Just kidding.
I liked it too.
Right. So first, I guess in order to wrap up, I wanted to ask: do you have any insight into like things like Alec John Such leaving the band, or what? How would you summarize the rest of your career with Bon Jovi? I guess as we finish up, Mark.
Well, Alex in 2000, he decided to just pack everything up, sell his house, sell everything in his house, and he had a public auction. I was reading the paper. It's like, you know, Alec Van Such is getting rid of everything. So I went over there, and I'm like, I didn't know, is this really happening? It's like, I should have bought more stuff, but I felt guilty. I felt bad because it's not like the gold records were going for a lot of money or anything, but I just felt bad. And then, you know, they were auctioning stuff off, and I saw him, and he saw me. I haven't seen him in a few years. He's like, come on downstairs. And we went in the basement, and he just kind of said, you know, I'm done with all this. I'm just getting rid of everything. I don't care. I want to just, you know, get on my motorcycle and just travel the country. And
didn't he have an RV or something too that he wanted to travel in?
Yeah, that's what he traveled. He had
an RV. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, I just want to leave. You know, that's it. You know. And then I think years later, when Bon Jovi played Giant Stadium, I think he called me, and he's like, I don't know. They want me to go down and play the show, and I don't know if I'm going to go up, do it. You know, he wasn't sure, but he did. I think he did it.
Okay. He was him and Tico were definitely both a little older than the other guys, right?
Yeah. But you know, he was fun. I liked Alec. He was like, he was a character.
How has have you? When is the last time you've talked to John or been active with anything that has gone on with Bon Jovi?
Well, since the documentary, and you know, they used my photographs. They interviewed me. They didn't use anything, but they put me in a documentary of, you know, my photos and some of my old photos. And they licensed my photographs and whatnot. But they have a tour photographer that's been with them for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I think the last time they played the Garden, I just shot it just for fun. You know, just to, you know, I shot a few songs, and you know, they're not really interested in any, you know, photography like they used to be. So
right.
It's not really. I mean, I you know, be nice to shoot them, but you
sure.
It's not like any bands that I shoot. It's just you do it for fun. You don't do it for anything else. And now there's a lot of rules now. I mean, John's has the health issues, so he doesn't want a lot of distractions. So he doesn't want photographers in the pit. You know, I didn't want to you know, I was going to shoot a few songs. They said you have to shoot front of house, and I'm like, I'm not going to shoot front of house. I said I got to shoot in the pit. You know, and I didn't get approved for it, so I just
front of house meaning
by the soundboard with the long
from the soundboard. So that's a distance. Yeah,
you can get good shots with it, but you know,
with lenses and stuff. But
yeah, but it's just not the same. It's not fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's fun being in the photo pit. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's fun. You know.
Right.
Shots and shooting the whole show, and you know, they just they have their guy now, and maybe one day they'll have me do some things, you know, but that's just it. I give artists space. So I go in and out with different bands, and for whatever reason, it's their choice who they want.
Right.
I mean, they know what I'm capable of doing. And
right.
I mean, I feel like I connect with the band. I think if I was part of that situation again, I think they'd get some images that they wouldn't get from other photographers, just because, you know, it's like having an old friend. But
Right.
But yeah, during the decades when the music changed a little bit and I wasn't as into them musically, you know, I mean, there wasn't any reason for me to shoot them. So yeah,
Sure.
years go by without asking for a photo pass, you know. I mean,
Sure.
they needed a photographer. They didn't call me. And plus, I really think because he was trying to like a lot of the bands in grunge, like I thought because of the body of work that I did with all the covers and the magazines that I'd be set. But little did I know when I started shooting bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Alice in Chains and Jane's Addiction that once I told them the stuff I did, I had to almost hide that I did Bon Jovi.
Right.
Right.
Songs, you know, and then when I did the shoots, because I worked for Metal Hammer from overseas, I had access. And I started shooting bands like Avenged Sevenfold, and I had a kind of image that was kind of cool. But the bands from Seattle, they really didn't want to be photographed, and they didn't care, and they didn't look cool. Right. I mean, they were cool, but you know, it wasn't the same. The magazines weren't there, so I wouldn't be any reason to go on the road with them, and
right.
know, they just weren't my friends, you know. So I just kind of let it go, and then I started shooting pop bands like Christina Aguilera, Black Eyed Peas, NSYNC, Backstreet. That was my whole career for like 20 years because I was working for Bravo, and that kept me going for a good 20 years. I have a good body of work with all the hip hop stuff, anyone you could imagine, Justin Timberlake and all these bands that no one even knows I have, which eventually I will do a book on that, but if I ever have time. But it's not really where my heart is, you know. I'd rather do a Decade That Rock book, which that's 5 years. And so now I'm doing these magazines, and that's an easy fix for me. I can pump them out. I'll do like a one magazine on Motley Crue, maybe Motley Crue versus Guns N' Roses, you know, like they used to do.
Right.
Yep.
And the fans like that stuff. So, you know, gonna do a Kickstarter. You know, I'll be definitely being public about it pretty soon about it. And you know, see where it goes.
And we got markweiss.com and rockmag. Is it rockmag.com or rock magazine?
Rock Mag.
Rockmag.com. And I just thought I'd throw out this last super chat. Mark, did you ever work with Billy Squire? And B4 O'Brien, man, thanks a lot. Did you ever work with Billy Squire?
Yeah, I actually was at the video when he was dancing around, prancing
Oh,
around.
shit.
Prancing around, I should say. And I actually shot him against a pink background in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, I like Billy. I love his songs. He got a bad shake for that, but you know, you got to make right decisions.
Well, and I'll say this: you said something about old friends before. You're an old friend of mine, Mark. We first met in early 1990. Was the first time you shot us, which is what I was holding up earlier. This is a postcard. This was shot in early 1990. Before we were signed, I was 24 here. And people have seen probably a few of these shots. This is also from you. And Mark has been so cool to me. He's included Tough in this awesome book, which, like Anthony said, this is a true phone book. If you threw this at somebody, they probably are going to be in the hospital. This thing is heavy. This is a true coffee table book, hardcover. And then the magazines, which started with this one, The Rock. Now there's several issues. Mark included yours truly on the cover. There's some great pinups in here. Dude, you've been so cool. When I managed the Veins of Jenna band, I reached out. That was 2006 or 7. You did stuff with them, and Bam, you were shooting Bam and Jackass. You've done a ton of stuff for this industry. You've always been cool to me, and thanks for that. You have an awesome history. To anybody that wants cool photos for their man cave, Mark's got a ton of killer stuff of, you name it, the who's who of music for the last 45 plus years, 50 years.
Yeah, and if any photographers are out there and, you know, they want to just send me an email, you know, my email's on my website. Just send me an email, send me some samples. And once I get this page going of, you know, the platform that I want to have for photographers around the world, you know,
Photography workshops, you've done those on the cruises as well, where photographers can meet with you and you can teach them stuff and help them and guide them. And
I did do that. It was a lot of work at the mountain, Monsters on the Mountain.
or the mountain, though. Yeah.
I don't know when I'll be doing that again, but listen, just bring, see what I got going on. And I think people will dig not just seeing it on social media, but seeing it on a platform where it's going to stay there forever.
Right.
And it's going to have my archives on there and my stories to tie it in, to give it some legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like Chris Adams here says, who's been a member for 4 months, Mark, you're a complete legend. And man, it's been an honor having you here. And hopefully we can get you back on and talk more about your career. Everyone go to markweiss.com and rockmag.com. But Mark, before Stevie and I finish it up, I'm going to let you go here in a second, but just thank you so much for taking the time and coming on tonight.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. I'm glad to spread the word, and we'll see who ends up sending me messages, who gets the magazine, who buys the book, and get inspired by anything I might have said that maybe they want to be a photographer now, because I don't discourage that at all. I always say, go for your passion, whatever it is. If you work hard enough, you'll be successful.
And I know
Awesome.
that when I was reading magazines, yours was one of those names, Wise Guy, I mean, and people talk about the Mount Rushmore of sports or this. You're definitely on the Mount Rushmore of rock photographers with your name. You're up there with the Zlozauers, and I know you're friends with Neil. Like he's the West Coast, you're the East Coast. There's a few others, but you're definitely on the Mount Rushmore of rock and roll. And for all the fans, there's probably half of your collection, or maybe not half, a quarter, a bunch of your collection. You'd go, oh, that's a Mark Weiss guy. Or this photo cover, this album, this magazine. So you've contributed so much. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks for having me, brothers.
All right. Take care, Mark. All right. We'll stay in touch. Thanks.
Right. See you soon.
Oh, that was awesome. So cool to have. Yes. And go to markweiss.com. The guy has legitimately shot all of your favorite bands. This book is so fucking epic. Like it legitimately just sits beside my couch all the time so I can flip through. But I wanted to say before we wrap it up,
Yep.
I apologize. We did get to all the super chats. We didn't get to do the regular questions. When you have a guest, you want to talk about the things that they've been involved in. So I apologize for that, but we still had a great night. Shit, there's still 240 people watching. But Stevie, I'm going to be seeing you a week from today. Hair Metal Chaos live at the Rainbow Bar and Grill at 5 p.m. Pacific. So, man, can't wait for that. And everybody that is watching is invited. We will be promoting the shit out of that on social medias. And then Tough live on the 23rd at the Whiskey A Go Go.
Yep.
And then contact Stevie if you are interested in the private party. I'm going to be at all that. I want to meet as many of you as possible. But
yep.
Stevie, another great night. Thanks for coming on and talking Bon Jovi, even though we didn't get to everything we wanted to do.
Yeah, and at some point, you and Mark have already talked. You're going to do an interview. You could talk with him for hours. I mean, there's so many bands, so many subjects, so many career moments that define him that were on your record player, meaning album covers or magazines that you were thumbing through. And he's always been super cool to me. Mark's always awesome. We've hung out on the cruise when we're on the East Coast. When he comes out here, obviously with the internet. It's crazy. He's got that book, the magazines. And again, these guys are, they have their magazines, or I should say their photo, what's it called? Their catalog of stuff. And you can, if you want an Aussie photo for your man cave or your bar, there's endless awesome images that he has. And some ones of Stevie Rachelle and Tough as well. Right. So if you want to put me on your bedroom wall, you can get one from Mark Weiss.
All right. Hey, down in the description, there's the link to the Metal Sludge store, the link to Metal Sludge. Check out all the kick-ass articles Stevie's doing. Obviously, you're on the Hair Metal Guru YouTube channel. Hey, like, subscribe, all of that. Check out everything we've been doing. But Stevie, anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, other than next week is going to be crazy. Tuesday, we're
Yeah.
going to be at the Rainbow. Anybody and everybody that comes down, we got a few little gifts for everybody, and special gifts that you're going to love. Anthony's going to be stoked. Tuesday's going to be amazing at the Rainbow. Next Wednesday, we're going to do rehearsal. Anthony's going to come and hang out. Thursday's the whiskey with Foxy Rocks, American Jet, some other bands. If you need tickets, those bands are selling them. I know they said they're getting low. You can also get them at the door. It's going to be a great night. A lot of people are going to be at the Rainbow before the show, probably having dinner on Thursday from 5 or 6 on. And then Friday is our cool party, which is shaping up to be awesome. And then Saturday, we're going to have a more private event. Guru, you and a bunch of the guys are going to be invited. Stephanie is going to host you guys at her killer place that she moved into a year and a half ago up off Mulholland and Topanga. We're going to have a blast. And then at some point, I guess you're going to hit Amoeba, Hollywood Boulevard, maybe Venice Beach while you're out in LA. It's going to be hotter than hell. And thank you so much for everyone tuning in. Obviously, Mark was here to tell a lot of his stories. There's much more to come. And next Tuesday is going to be a show like no others, since we're going to be live in the flesh at the Rainbow.
Come introduce yourself. I kid you, I'm going to be making as much content as possible. So if you come up to me and you say, hey man, I love the Hair Metal Guru, you too, I'm probably going to be like, fuck, can I get you on video? Like me and you standing together and you saying that?
Yeah.
Because I'm always flattered when people want to. So please come introduce myself, meet Stevie, and hang out at the Rainbow at all those shows. Let Stevie know if you're interested in coming to the VIP party. But had a blast tonight talking Bon Jovi. Down in the description, you'll find the link to Metal Sludge and all that. You'll find the link to my Spotify. You'll find Mark Weiss's links for so go check out the Decade That Rocked Mag. And we'll be seeing you next week at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. Hey, until next week's show, my name is Anthony, but they call me the Guru. You guys take care of yourselves.
Thank you.